The mining rig's alarm blared at exactly 0600 hours, same as every day for the past 3 years. Daniel Mercer rolled out of his narrow bunk, his feet hitting the cold metal floor of his quarters aboard Frontier Station X5. Through the reinforced viewport, the asteroid belt stretched endlessly, chunks of rock and ice tumbling in their eternal dance around the distant sun. Daniel rubbed his eyes and stumbled to the small mirror above his sink. The face staring back at him looked older than his 32 years. 3 years of isolation on this corporate-owned rock had carved lines around his eyes and dulled the spark that once lived there. He ran a hand through his disheveled brown hair and sighed. "Another exciting day in paradise," he muttered to his reflection. The communal shower was mercifully empty. Most of the other workers on his shift wouldn't be up for another hour. Daniel let the recycled water wash over him, trying not to think about how many times it had been filtered through the station systems. Everything on Frontier X5 was recycled, reused, repurposed. Even the people, he thought bitterly. As he dressed in his standard-issue gray coveralls, his eyes fell on the small digital frame on his desk. It cycled through photos of his sister Maria and her 2 kids. The last pictures taken before the accident at Colony Prime, before the structural failure that killed 300 people because Drake Industries had cut corners on safety inspections, before Daniel had lost everything that mattered and ended up here, at the edge of nowhere, fixing machines for the same bastards who had destroyed his life. His comm unit chimed. A message flashed on the screen. "Package arrival notification, Bay 12, time sensitive." Daniel frowned. He hadn't ordered anything from the supply runs. Those came once a month, and he'd learned to live without most luxuries. But then, he remembered. His face flushed with embarrassment. The dating service, the mail-order bride program. It had been a moment of weakness 2 months ago. Another miner, Rodriguez, had been going on about how he'd found happiness through one of those interstellar matching services. "Best decision I ever made," Rodriguez had said, showing off pictures of his new wife, a petite woman from Mars Colony. "Sometimes you just need someone. You know someone who gets it." Daniel had been drunk on synthetic whiskey, alone in his quarters, on what would have been Maria's birthday. The advertisement had popped up on his terminal: "Find love across the stars, guaranteed compatibility." In his inebriated state, it had seemed like a sign. He'd filled out the questionnaire, paid the fee with 3 months of savings, and promptly forgotten about it. Until now. "Shit," he whispered, checking the time. The arrival was scheduled for 0700. He had 20 minutes. Daniel hurried through the station's corridors, his work boots clanging against the metal grating. Frontier X5 was a labyrinth of passages, some leading to the mining shafts, others to processing facilities, living quarters, or the administrative sections where management pretended to care about worker welfare. He passed a group of Krellian workers, their blue-scaled faces turning to watch him rush by. One of them, Thax, called out a greeting in accented English. "Morning. Mercer, you late for something?" "Package pickup," Daniel called back, not slowing down. Thax's forked tongue flicked out in what passed for a Krellian laugh. "Must be important. You moving like asteroid on collision course." Daniel waved and kept going. The station's population was about 60% human, 40% various alien species, who had integrated into humanity's expanding frontier. Despite corporate propaganda about species unity, there were clear divisions. Humans got the better quarters, the safer jobs, the management positions. Everyone else got what was left. Bay 12 was in the older section of the station, where the artificial gravity generators hiccuped occasionally and the air recyclers made everything smell faintly of ozone. Daniel arrived with 5 minutes to spare, breathing hard. The docking bay was small, designed for shuttles and small cargo vessels. Through the observation window, he could see a ship already locked into the docking clamps. It wasn't a standard cargo vessel. This ship was sleek, painted in deep purple with silver accents. Vraxian design, if Daniel remembered correctly. They built their ships for speed and maneuverability, not cargo capacity. Strange choice for a delivery vessel. The bay's atmospheric readings showed green. Daniel hit the entry button and stepped through the airlock. The bay was cold, his breath misting in the air. Emergency lights cast long shadows across the floor. And there, by the ship's extended ramp, stood a figure. Daniel stopped dead. The dating service profile had been specific. He'd requested someone small, gentle, with a caring disposition. Someone who could help chase away the loneliness without demanding too much. Someone safe. The being standing before him was none of those things. She had to be at least 8 feet tall, covered in sleek armor that seemed to be part clothing, part natural carapace. Her skin, where visible, was a deep amber color with subtle scale patterns that caught the light. 4 arms emerged from her torso, the upper pair thick with corded muscle, the lower pair more slender, but no less dangerous looking. Her face was vaguely humanoid, but with pronounced ridges along her jaw and forehead. 6 eyes, arranged in 2 rows of 3, fixed on Daniel with an intensity that made his knees weak. "You are Daniel Mercer." Her voice was surprisingly melodious, despite coming from a mouth filled with teeth that looked capable of biting through steel. Daniel nodded, unable to form words. "I am Syraxa of the Thanarian bloodline." She descended the ramp with a fluid grace that belied her size. Each step made the deck plates vibrate slightly. "I believe you were expecting me." There must be some mistake," Daniel managed. The service said, "A bride." "Yes." One of her lower arms produced a datapad. Contract number 4472B. Daniel Mercer, engineer, Frontier Station X5. Seeking companionship and life partnership. Payment confirmed. Genetic compatibility verified at 87%. She looked up from the pad, and Daniel could swear he saw amusement in those 6 eyes. "Is there a problem?" Before Daniel could answer, the station's emergency klaxon began to wail. Red lights bathed the docking bay in hellish illumination. The automated voice of the station's AI echoed through the speakers. "Alert! Alert! Critical system failure detected in mining shaft 3. Explosion detected. All emergency personnel to stations. This is not a drill." Daniel's blood ran cold. Mining shaft 3 was the deepest excavation on the asteroid, extending nearly 5 kilometers into the rock. An explosion down there could destabilize the entire station. "We need to go," he said, turning toward the exit. "That's my section. If the shaft collapses..." "Wait!" Syraxa's upper right arm shot out, grabbing his shoulder with surprising gentleness. "Something is wrong here." "Yeah, the mine is exploding." "No." Her 6 eyes narrowed, scanning the bay. "I mean this arrival, this timing. I dock, and immediately there is catastrophe." She moved past him toward the airlock, her movements now predatory, alert. In my experience, coincidences are rarely coincidental. The lights cut out completely. Emergency power kicked in a second later, bathing everything in a sickly green glow. Through the observation window, Daniel could see people running through the corridors, panic spreading like wildfire. "We need to get to the command center," Daniel said. "If this is sabotage..." "It is." Syraxa's voice carried absolute certainty. She pulled something from her armor, a weapon of some kind, its surface covered in alien script. "The question is whether they meant to frame me, or if my arrival was meant to provide cover for their true purpose." "They who's they?" She turned those 6 eyes on him, and Daniel felt like he was being X-rayed. "Tell me, Daniel Mercer, how many enemies have you made on this station?" "None. I keep to myself, do my job." "And before this station, who would profit from your death?" The question hit him like a physical blow. "My death, I'm nobody. Just an engineer." No one is just anything. She moved to the door, weapon raised. We go to command center, yes, but we go carefully, and you stay behind me. I don't need protecting. I know this station. The corridor beyond the airlock erupted in weapons fire. Energy beams scorched the walls as security forces exchanged fire with unseen attackers. Daniel instinctively ducked, but Saraxa merely tilted her head, analyzing. Drake Industries security, fighting someone with military-grade weapons. She glanced back at him. This is not random violence. This is execution of plan. Her lower left arm reached out and pulled him closer. Stay very close to me. Daniel Mercer. I think someone has gone to great trouble to ensure we both die today. As if to emphasize her point, a massive explosion rocked the station. The deck pitched wildly, and Daniel would have fallen if not for Saraxa's grip. In the distance, through the chaos of alarms and screaming, he could hear the automated systems announcing catastrophic decompression in multiple sections. The mines, Daniel breathed. If they've damaged the structural supports, then we have very little time. Saraxa checked her weapon once more. Tell me, do you trust me? It was an insane question. He'd known her for all of 5 minutes. She was an alien warrior twice his size who had shown up claiming to be his mail-order bride. Nothing about this situation made sense. But as another explosion shook the station, and the lights failed again, Daniel realized he didn't have much choice. I trust you, he said. Good, she smiled, revealing those terrifying teeth. Because what comes next will require faith. She moved into the corridor with inhuman speed, her forearms working in perfect coordination. The weapon in her upper right hand spat brilliant blue fire, while her upper left pulled Daniel along. Her lower arms were free, ready to grab, push, or strike as needed. They encountered the first body 20 meters from the docking bay. A security guard, human, with a smoking hole in his chest. Daniel recognized him. Thompson, a decent guy who always shared his coffee ration. Plasma wound, Saraxa noted clinically. Close range. He knew his attacker. They pressed on. The station's layout, which Daniel knew by heart, suddenly seemed foreign in the strobing emergency lights. Smoke was beginning to fill the corridors as fire suppression systems failed. They passed more bodies, human and alien alike. Some wore security uniforms, others the gray coveralls of workers. This is a massacre, Daniel whispered. No. Saraxa paused at an intersection, her 6 eyes scanning in all directions. This is cleanup. These people saw something they should not have. A figure emerged from the smoke ahead. Another security guard, weapon raised. Daniel started to call out a warning, but Saraxa was already moving. She flowed like liquid death, covering the distance in 2 strides. Her lower arms caught the guard's weapon, redirecting it harmlessly into the wall. Her upper left arm struck his throat with surgical precision. He dropped unconscious. Why didn't you kill him? Daniel asked. He is scared, not hostile. There is difference. She rifled through the guard's equipment, taking his access card and backup weapon. Besides, we need answers. They reached a maintenance shaft that Daniel knew led toward the command center. It would be cramped for someone Saraxa's size, but it was safer than the main corridors. This way, he said, overriding the lock with his engineer's codes. The shaft was a tight fit. Saraxa had to bend nearly double, her armor scraping against the walls. They crawled through darkness, guided only by the faint luminescence of her armor and Daniel's memory of the route. So, Daniel said, trying to distract himself from their dire situation, you're really a mail-order bride. She made a sound that might have been laughter. Is that so difficult to believe? Honestly, yes. Because I am not small and gentle as requested. Because you're a warrior. You could have anyone. Why would you need a matching service? They reached a junction. Daniel pointed left, and they continued crawling. Perhaps, Saraxa said quietly. Warriors also get lonely. Perhaps on my world, I am considered difficult. Difficult how? I ask questions. I refuse to accept the order of things. I believe in justice over profit. Her voice carried old pain. These are not valued traits in Thanarian society, or in most societies. I find they emerged from the shaft into a utility room. The lights here were still functional, casting normal white illumination that seemed almost surreal after the emergency lighting. Command center is 2 levels up, Daniel said, but we'll need to pass through the administrative section. Where management lives, Saraxa checked her weapons. They will be guarded. Why are you helping me? Daniel asked suddenly. You could have left, taken your ship and gone. She fixed him with all 6 eyes. You are my contracted partner. Among my people. This creates obligation. She paused. Also, I believe you are a good man caught in bad situation. This offends my sense of justice. You got all that from 5 minutes of conversation. I am good judge of character. It is why I am still alive. She moved to the door. Ready. Daniel checked the weapon she'd given him. He'd had basic firearms training, but he'd never shot at a living target. No, but let's go anyway. The administrative section was a war zone. Barricades had been erected using overturned desks and filing cabinets. Security forces exchanged fire with attackers wearing black combat armor. The air stank of ozone and burned plastic. Corporate mercenaries. Saraxa identified. Professional killers. Someone paid well for this. They skirted the main conflict, using Daniel's knowledge of maintenance passages to bypass the worst fighting. But as they neared the command center, their luck ran out. Maxwell Drake stood in the corridor ahead, flanked by 4 mercenaries. The chief security officer of Frontier X5 looked immaculate despite the chaos. His silver hair perfectly styled, his expensive suit unmarred by smoke or debris. Mr. Mercer, Drake said pleasantly, and our visiting Thanarian. How convenient to find you together. Drake, Daniel's grip tightened on his weapon. What the hell is going on? Corporate restructuring, Drake smiled coldly. The mining operation has become unprofitable. An unfortunate accident will solve that problem. Total loss of station and crew. Very tragic. The insurance payout will more than cover our losses. You're going to kill everyone for money. Not everyone. Key personnel have been evacuated. Those with value. His eyes flicked to Saraxa. You, my dear, were supposed to arrive tomorrow. Your early arrival has complicated things. Then I am not part of this plan, Saraxa said. Oh, but you are. A Thanarian warrior arriving just as the station suffers catastrophic failure. Who would suspect corporate malfeasance when we have such an obvious culprit? He gestured to his mercenaries. Kill the engineer. Take the alien alive. We'll need her for the cover story. The mercenaries raised their weapons. Daniel prepared to die. Saraxa moved. It was like watching a force of nature unleashed. She flowed between energy beams that should have cut her down, her 4 arms working in perfect harmony. Her weapon sang its deadly song, while her free hands struck with bone-crushing force. 2 mercenaries were down before they could adjust their aim. Daniel, acting on instinct, dove behind a support column and returned fire. His shots went wide, but they forced 1 mercenary to seek cover. Drake was backing away, speaking rapidly into a comm unit. Priority override. Activate Omega Protocol. All units converge on command deck. Saraxa finished the last mercenary with a brutal efficiency that was almost beautiful. She turned toward Drake, but he had already disappeared around a corner. We need to stop him, Daniel said. Agreed. But first, she knelt beside one of the fallen mercenaries, checking his equipment. These are not standard corporate soldiers. These are specialists, alien hunters. She held up a strange-looking device. Neural disruptor, specifically calibrated for Thanarian physiology. They were ready for you. Someone was... She stood, her 6 eyes blazing with fury. This was not coincidence. Daniel Mercer. Someone brought me here to die. The station shook again, more violently than before. Somewhere in the distance, Daniel heard the terrible sound of metal tearing. The structural supports are failing, he said. We have maybe 30 minutes before total collapse. Then we move quickly. Siraxa headed for the command center. And when we find Drake, we learn why he wanted us both dead. They reached the command center doors, which were sealed with security protocols. Daniel input his override codes, but they were rejected. He's locked us out, Daniel said. Then we make our own entrance. Siraxa placed shaped charges from the mercenaries' equipment. Stand back. The explosion was controlled, precise. The doors flew inward, revealing the command center beyond. Banks of monitors showed the station's death throes. Multiple hull breaches, fires raging out of control, entire sections venting atmosphere into space. And in the center of it all stood Maxwell Drake, calmly entering commands into the main console. Too late, he said without turning. The cascade has begun. In 20 minutes. Frontier X5 will be nothing but debris. Why? Daniel demanded. Why kill innocent people? Drake finally turned. His expression was one of mild annoyance, as if they were discussing a scheduling conflict. Innocent Mr. Mercer. No one on this station is innocent. You're all complicit in the great machine of commerce. Your labor, your lives. All of it serves the corporation. He smiled. Your deaths will serve it too. You're insane. I'm practical. The Thanarian was a bonus, really. Her people's warrior culture makes them perfect scapegoats. A tragic love story gone wrong. Engineer orders alien bride. She turns out to be a terrorist. The publicity alone will justify tighter restrictions on alien integration. You contacted the matching service, Siraxa said, understanding dawning in her voice. You arranged for me to be here. Of course. Your profile was perfect. A disgraced warrior seeking a new life. How could Mr. Mercer resist? Drake checked his chronometer. 18 minutes. You should run. Not that there's anywhere to go. Daniel felt rage building in his chest. This man had orchestrated the deaths of hundreds for profit. Just like the managers who had cut corners at Colony Prime. Just like everyone who put credits over lives. You're wrong about one thing, Daniel said quietly.
Oh!
I'm not going to run. He raised his weapon and fired. But Drake was already moving, diving behind a console as energy beams scorched the air where he'd been standing. Station security is converging on this location, Drake called out. You can't win. Siraxa moved through the command center like a hunting cat, using her superior mobility to flank Drake's position. Daniel provided covering fire, forcing the security chief to stay low. 15 minutes, Drake taunted. Can you feel the station dying around you? An explosion somewhere below them sent the deck tilting at a crazy angle. Monitors sparked and died. The lights flickered ominously. There, Daniel spotted an escape pod access terminal. We can evacuate the remaining crew. Already thought of that, Drake said. Escape pods are offline. No witnesses. Remember? Siraxa reached Drake's position, her lower arms grabbing the console and wrenching it aside. Drake rolled away, producing a neural disruptor. The device hummed to life, its energy field designed to overload Thanarian nervous systems. Did you really think I wouldn't be prepared? Drake sneered. Siraxa staggered as the disruptor's field washed over her, her 6 eyes unfocused, and she dropped to one knee. No, Daniel charged, rage overcoming sense. Drake turned the disruptor toward him, but Daniel was already too close. They collided, going down in a tangle of limbs. The device went flying. Drake was stronger than he looked, with the wiry strength of someone who'd had combat training. But Daniel had 3 years of pent-up fury driving him. They rolled across the deck, each trying to gain advantage. You're just like your sister, Drake hissed, always interfering where you don't belong. Daniel froze. What did you say? Colony Prime wasn't an accident either. Your sister was investigating our cost-cutting measures. She had to be silenced. The world went red. Daniel's fist connected with Drake's jaw. Then again, and again. All the grief, all the rage, all the helplessness of the past 3 years poured out through his fists. Daniel! Saraxa's voice cut through his fury. Daniel, stop! We need him alive! He looked up. Saraxa had recovered from the disruptor's effects and stood watching him with those unreadable 6 eyes. Drake lay beneath him, face bloodied but still breathing. He killed my sister, Daniel said, his voice breaking. And he will answer for it. But not if we all die here. She hauled Drake to his feet with casual strength. 10 minutes remain. How do we save the station? Drake laughed, blood bubbling from his split lip. You can't. The reaction is cascade. Even I couldn't stop it now. He's lying, Daniel said, moving to the main console. His engineer's training kicked in as he scanned the damage reports. The explosions were precisely placed to cause maximum damage with minimum redundancy. Someone who knew exactly where to hit. So they were too precise. Look. He pulled up a schematic. The main reactor is intact. If we can reroute power through the secondary systems, bypass the damaged sections. It might buy time, Saraxa finished. How long? Maybe an hour. Long enough to evacuate. The escape pods are disabled, Drake reminded them. The software is disabled, Daniel corrected. The pods themselves are intact. I can override from here, but I need time. Do it! Saraxa turned to Drake. You will help him. Why would I do that? She lifted him one-handed, bringing his face close to hers. Because if this station dies, you die with it, and I will ensure your last minutes are memorable. Drake paled. You're bluffing. You're supposed to be seeking redemption, aren't you, trying to be better? I am better. The old me would have killed you already. She set him down roughly. Now work. The next 8 minutes were a blur of frantic activity. Daniel's fingers flew over the controls, rerouting systems, bypassing damaged sectors, coaxing life from dying machines. Drake, thoroughly cowed, provided access codes and technical data. There, Daniel initiated the evacuation protocol. Throughout the station, escape pods came online. People have 5 minutes to reach the pods. Will they make it? The ones who are still alive will... Saraxa nodded. Then we go. Wait, Daniel turned to Drake. The evidence of what you've done. Where is it? Drake smiled despite his injuries. Destroyed in the explosions. You have nothing. Wrong. Saraxa produced a data recorder from her armor. Everything since I arrived has been documented. Your confession, your plans, all of it. Thanarian military hardware, Drake breathed. You're not just a warrior. You're intelligence division. Former intelligence? She secured the device. Now I am just tourist-seeking husband. Despite everything, Daniel found himself almost smiling. We should go. 2 minutes until the pods auto-launch. They made their way to the nearest pod bay. Around them, the station groaned and shuddered like a dying beast. They passed scattered groups of survivors heading for evacuation points. Some were injured, supported by others. Humans and aliens worked together, species divisions forgotten in the face of shared catastrophe. The pod bay was crowded but organized. Emergency procedures had kicked in, and people were loading into pods with practiced efficiency. Daniel spotted Thax, helping an injured human worker into a pod. Mercer, the Krellian, called out. Good to see you alive. You too. Get everyone out of here. Already on it. You take next pod. Daniel, Saraxa, and their prisoner reached an empty pod. As they strapped in, Drake made one last attempt at manipulation. You know they'll never let you keep that recording, he told Saraxa. Drake Industries has resources you can't imagine. They'll hunt you across the galaxy. Let them come. She finished, securing him to a seat. I have faced worse than corporate assassins. The pod launched, explosive bolts firing them clear of the dying station. Through the viewport, Daniel watched Frontier X-5 tear itself apart. Secondary explosions rippled through its structure as reactors failed and atmosphere vented. In minutes, the place that had been his prison and home for 3 years was reduced to spinning debris. "All those people," he whispered. "Some survived," Siraxa said. "More than would have if we had not acted." "It's not enough. It never is. But we do what we can." She looked at him with those alien eyes. "You did well, Daniel Mercer. You saved lives today." "We saved lives." She inclined her head. "We make a good team." The pod's emergency beacon activated, broadcasting their location to any rescue ships in range. It would be hours before anyone arrived. But they had air and heat. They would survive. "So," Daniel said after a long silence, "what happens now?" "Now we present evidence to authorities. Drake goes to prison. You receive compensation for your sister's death." She paused. "And we discuss our contract." "Our contract?" "The marriage agreement, it is still valid, yes." Daniel stared at her. After everything that had happened, she was still thinking about that. "You want to go through with it?" "That depends. Do you?" It was an impossible question. 24 hours ago, he'd been a lonely engineer expecting a quiet, submissive bride to ease his isolation. Instead, he'd gotten a 8-foot-tall warrior woman who had saved his life and helped expose a conspiracy that killed his sister. Nothing about this matched his expectations. And yet, "I don't even know you," he said. "Then we learn. Is that not purpose of courtship?" "Courtship usually doesn't involve explosions and firefights. Perhaps your human courtships are too boring." Despite himself. Daniel laughed. It felt strange after so much death and chaos, but also necessary. "You might have a point." "I often do." She shifted in her seat, her armor scraping against the pod's interior. "I should tell you truth, though. I am not easy partner. I have opinions. I fight for what I believe. I do not submit quietly to authority." "I noticed." "And this does not bother you." Daniel thought about it. Did it bother him? He'd wanted someone safe. Someone who wouldn't challenge him or complicate his life. But look where playing it safe had gotten him. Working for the people who killed his sister. Hiding from life on a station at the edge of nowhere. "No," he said finally. "It doesn't bother me." "Good," she settled back. "Then we have time to discuss terms. The rescue ship will not arrive for hours." "Terms of marriage contract. I have requirements." "Such as?" "Equal partnership, shared decisions, respect for both cultures, and absolutely no more mining stations." "I can work with that." Drake made a disgusted noise from his secured position. "You're actually going through with this farce?" "Silence," Siraxa said mildly. "Or I will demonstrate why Thanarian warriors are feared across 12 systems." Drake shut up. Daniel watched the stars wheel past the viewport. Somewhere among them was a future he couldn't quite imagine yet. A life with an alien warrior bride, pursuing justice for his sister. Maybe finding some peace at last. It wasn't what he'd ordered, but maybe it was what he needed. "One condition," he said. Siraxa's eyes focused on him. "Yes. Next time we meet someone trying to kill us, you let me know before the shooting starts. I make no promises, but I will try." "Good enough." They floated in silence after that, waiting for rescue, watching the debris of their old lives scatter into the void. And despite everything, Daniel felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Hope. The rescue ship appeared 4 hours later, a corporate vessel responding to the distress beacons. By then, Daniel had learned that Siraxa enjoyed terrible jokes, had a weakness for Earth chocolate, and had once arm-wrestled a Gorvax warrior to settle a dispute over mining rights. She learned that he could play 3 musical instruments, had a degree in theoretical physics he'd never used, and still talked to his sister's picture when he was sad. It wasn't much, but it was a beginning. As they prepared to board the rescue ship, Saraxa took his hand in one of hers. Her grip was strong, but gentle. "No regrets?" she asked. "Ask me in a year." "I will hold you to that, Daniel Mercer." The rescue ship's airlock cycled open. Time to face whatever came next. Together. The corporate rescue vessel, Perseverance, was everything Frontier Station X5 hadn't been. Clean white corridors, functioning air systems that didn't smell like recycled sweat, and gravity that never fluctuated. Daniel found himself missing the familiar discomfort of his old home, even as medical staff fussed over his minor injuries. "You're lucky," Dr. Hollis said, applying healing gel to a burn on Daniel's forearm. "Most survivors have much worse injuries. That partner of yours must have protected you well." Through the medical bay window, Daniel could see Saraxa being examined by a team of increasingly nervous medics. Her 6 eyes tracked every movement, and her 4 arms remained tensed despite her apparent cooperation. When one medic approached with a scanner, she bared her teeth slightly, causing him to step back. "She doesn't trust easily," Daniel observed. "Can you blame her?" Dr. Hollis sealed the burn treatment. "A Thanarian warrior this far from home space. Caught in what appears to be corporate sabotage, I'd be paranoid too." "You believe us then about Drake?" The doctor's expression grew guarded. "I've been with Drake Industries for 15 years, Mr. Mercer. I've learned not to ask certain questions." She lowered her voice. "But I've also learned to keep my own records, just in case." Before Daniel could probe further, the medical bay doors burst open. A squad of security officers entered, weapons drawn. Their leader, a hard-faced woman with captain's insignia, spoke without preamble. "Daniel Mercer, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit industrial terrorism." "What?" Daniel shot to his feet. "That's insane. We stopped the attack." "Save it for the inquiry." The captain gestured to her team. "Secure the Thanarian as well. Use neural restraints." Through the window, Daniel saw security converging on Saraxa. She rose from the examination table, all 8 feet of her radiating menace. "Don't," Daniel shouted. "She's not the enemy here." The security captain backhanded him casually, splitting his lip. "Quiet, terrorist." That was a mistake. The medical bay window exploded inward as Saraxa came through it like a guided missile. She hit the security captain with enough force to send her flying into the far wall. The other officers opened fire, but Saraxa was already moving, using her 4 arms to devastating effect. She disarmed 2 officers simultaneously, while kicking a third in the chest. "Stop," a new voice commanded. "Stand down, all units." Captain Rourke entered the medical bay, his uniform still bearing scorch marks from the station evacuation. The stocky man surveyed the chaos with weary eyes before focusing on the security captain, who was struggling to rise. "Captain Morrison, explain why you're arresting the 2 people who saved 300 lives." Morrison spat blood. "Orders from corporate. They're suspects in the station's destruction." "Bullshit." Rourke stepped between Morrison and Daniel. "I've reviewed the evacuation logs. Without Mercer's intervention, no one would have made it off that station." "I have my orders." "And I have mine." Rourke produced a data pad. "Emergency Command Authority, granted by the Colonial Maritime Code. As the highest-ranking survivor of Frontier X5, I assume operational control of this investigation." He smiled coldly. "Stand down, Captain. That's an order." Morrison looked like she wanted to argue, but military protocol was clear. She gestured to her team, and they lowered their weapons. Saraxa remained in a combat stance, her 6 eyes tracking every movement. "It's okay," Daniel told her. "Captain Rourke is, well, not a friend exactly, but he's fair." "Fair is rare commodity," Saraxa said, but she relaxed slightly. Rourke dismissed Morrison's team and sealed the medical bay. We don't have long. Corporate will override my authority within hours. Tell me everything. Daniel and Siraxa laid out the full story. Drake's confession, the evidence Siraxa had recorded, the revelation about Colony Prime. Rourke's face grew darker with each detail. Maria was your sister, he said when they finished. I remember her. Bright woman. Always asking questions. He sighed. Too many questions, apparently. You knew her. She consulted with me about safety protocols. Had concerns about structural integrity in the Gamma section. I told her to file a report. His hands clenched. 2 weeks later, Gamma section collapsed. Drake killed her. Drake ordered it. But he's just middle management. Rourke activated a privacy screen around them. This goes higher, much higher. The board of directors, maybe even the CEO himself. Then we take the evidence public, Siraxa suggested. Your human media loves scandals. With what evidence, no offense, but a Thanarian military recording won't hold up in human courts. They'll claim it was doctored, that you're a foreign agent trying to destabilize human corporations. Daniel felt hope crumbling. So they win, they kill hundreds of people and just walk away. I didn't say that. Rourke glanced around conspiratorially. But we need more. Drake's just one piece of a larger puzzle. We need documentation, financial records, communication logs, all of which were destroyed with the station, Daniel pointed out. The physical servers, yes. But Drake Industries backs up everything to their central hub on Kepler Station. Rourke pulled up a star chart. It's a 3-day journey from here. Heavy security, corporate sovereignty. Getting in would be suicide, Siraxa finished. I like it. Daniel stared at her. You like it. Is good challenge. Also, these people tried to frame me for mass murder. On my world, this demands blood payment. We're not on your world. No, on my world. I would have already killed them all. She showed those terrifying teeth in what might have been a smile. I am showing restraint. Dr. Hollis, who had been quietly treating injured security officers, cleared her throat. If you're serious about this insane plan, you'll need someone on the inside. Someone with access to medical databases. Doctor, Rourke warned. 15 years, Captain. 15 years of patching up workers injured by corporate negligence, of filing reports that go nowhere, of watching good people die for profit margins. She met their eyes steadily. I have access to Kepler Station. Medical conference next week. I could get you in. It's too dangerous, Daniel protested. So was staying silent while people died. Dr. Hollis turned to her medical terminal. But first, we need to deal with your immediate problem. Morrison will be back with corporate lawyers within the hour. Then we run, Siraxa said simply. In what corporate security has this ship locked down? Rourke rubbed his jaw. Unless. My ship, Siraxa said. It is still in cargo bay. Impounded. But yes. A slow smile spread across Rourke's face. And as ranking officer, I have authority to release impounded property. They moved quickly. Rourke provided security codes while Dr. Hollis created false medical records, showing Daniel and Siraxa were in critical condition and couldn't be moved. It would buy them maybe an hour before someone checked. The cargo bay was lightly guarded. 2 board security officers who barely looked up when Rourke approached with the proper documentation. Releasing the Vraxian vessel to its owner, Rourke announced, handing over the paperwork. Corporate authorization attached. One guard frowned. I thought the owner was under arrest. Charges dropped. Lack of evidence. Rourke's tone suggested questioning further would be unhealthy. The guards stepped aside. Siraxa's ship sat in the bay, like a purple predator among prey. Up close, Daniel could see it was more than just a transport. Weapon ports were cleverly disguised as decorative elements. The hull showed signs of armor plating beneath its elegant exterior. This isn't a civilian vessel, Daniel observed as they boarded. I never said I was civilian. Saraxa moved to the pilot station, her forearms dancing over controls. Strap in. Launch will be energetic. Rourke clasped Daniel's shoulder. I'll delay pursuit as long as I can. Get to Kepler Station. Find the evidence. And Mercer. His grip tightened. Make them pay. For Maria. For all of them. What about Drake? Leave him to me. I'll ensure he stays in custody, one way or another. The ship's engines hummed to life, a deep thrumming that Daniel felt in his bones. Saraxa's 6 eyes reflected the control panel's glow as she initiated launch sequences. Perseverance Control. This is Vraxian vessel, Silent Blade requesting departure clearance, she said, in perfectly accented human standard. Negative, Silent Blade. All vessels are under lockdown pending investigation. Unfortunate. Saraxa's upper right hand moved to a panel marked with Thanarian script. Launching anyway. She hit the control. The cargo bay doors didn't open so much as cease to exist, vaporized by the ship's weapons. Silent Blade shot through the opening like its namesake, acceleration pressing Daniel deep into his seat. Perseverance is powering weapons, he warned, watching the tactical display. Let them. Saraxa's hands flew over controls with inhuman speed. Would you like to know why Thanarian warriors are feared? Because you're 8 feet tall with 4 arms. Because we understand space. The ship suddenly corkscrewed, narrowly avoiding a spread of missiles. Your people think in straight lines. Up, down, forward, back. But space has no such limits. She demonstrated by flipping the ship end over end, flying backwards while firing at their pursuers. The Perseverance's escort fighters scattered, unable to track the erratic movements. Also, Saraxa added conversationally, our ships are very well armed. Pulse cannons emerged from hidden ports, filling space with brilliant death. One escort fighter exploded, another lost its engine and spiraled away. Jump drive charging, Saraxa announced. 20 seconds. They're launching more fighters. Then we give them something else to consider. She fired a spread of missiles, but not at the fighters. They streaked toward Perseverance itself. You're attacking a hospital ship. Non-lethal warheads. Electromagnetic pulse. We'll disable their systems for 1 hour. She glanced at him with 2 of her eyes. I am not monster. Daniel Mercer. I kill only when necessary. The missiles detonated, washing Perseverance in crackling energy. Its lights flickered and died. The launching fighters suddenly found themselves without carrier support. Jump in 3, 2, 1. Reality twisted. The stars elongated into streams of light, and Daniel's stomach tried to exit through his throat. Then they were in hyperspace, the normal universe left behind. Safe for now, Saraxa announced. 3 days to Kepler Station. Time to plan. Daniel unstrapped and moved to the co-pilot seat. Through the hyperspace window, reality looked like melted paint. That was insane. That was necessary. She began shutting down combat systems. Your corporate masters would have executed us quietly. Now they must chase us. Which gives us time to prepare. Daniel called up everything he knew about Kepler Station. It's not going to be easy. The entire station is corporate property. They make their own laws. Then we break them. Saraxa rose from her seat, stretching all 4 arms. Come, I will show you the ship. If we are to be partners, you must understand our resources. Silent Blade was larger than it appeared from outside. The main deck contained the bridge, a small medical bay, and living quarters. Below that was cargo space, currently empty, except for mysterious crates marked in Thanarian script. The lowest deck made Daniel whistle appreciatively. This is an armory. Was armory. Now is enthusiast's collection. Saraxa selected a weapon from the racks. This is plasma lance. Can punch through 3 meters of reinforced steel. Very illegal in human space. How illegal? 20 years imprisonment illegal. She handed it to him. You will need weapon for Kepler Station. Choose wisely. Daniel examined the arsenal. Energy weapons, projectile firearms, and things he couldn't even identify. I don't suppose you have anything non-lethal? Why would I carry non-lethal weapons? Because we're trying to expose corruption, not start a war. She considered this. Valid point. She retrieved a different weapon. Stun baton. Will disable human nervous system for 1 hour. Usually. Sometimes 2 hours. Sometimes permanent paralysis. Depends on species. That's reassuring. They returned to the living quarters. It was Spartan but comfortable, designed for long journeys. Saraxa began removing her armor, revealing the form-fitting bodysuit beneath. Her movements were efficient, practiced. You asked earlier why I took marriage contract, she said without looking at him. You don't have to explain. I want to... She hung the armor carefully in a wall alcove. My clan was destroyed 5 years ago. Corporate mining operation on our colony world. They wanted mineral rights. We refused. Her voice carried old pain. Drake Industries sent mercenaries. My family fought. They died. I survived because I was off-world, serving in intelligence division. I'm sorry. Do not be sorry. Be angry. She turned to face him. When I learned you ordered bride from Frontier Station owned by Drake Industries, I was curious. When I researched you and found connection to Colony Prime incident, I was suspicious. So I took contract. You came here to investigate. I came for answers. And perhaps revenge. She moved closer. I did not expect to find kindred spirit. We're hardly kindred anything. You're a warrior from an advanced civilization. I'm just an engineer. Just, her lower left hand touched his face gently. You saved lives. You fought a corrupt system. You seek justice for the dead. These are warriors' actions. The touch was surprisingly warm. Her amber skin had a subtle texture. Not quite scales, but not smooth either. This close. He could see that her 6 eyes weren't uniform. The central pair were larger, probably primary vision, while the others provided peripheral awareness. This is weird, he said. Which part? The forearm's 6 eyes. Or that I am twice your size. The part where I'm not bothered by any of that? She made that sound that might have been laughter. Perhaps you are more adaptable than you believe. A soft chime interrupted them. Saraxa moved to a wall panel, reading the displayed information. Her expression darkened. What is it? Automated newsfeed. Explosion on corporate rescue vessel Perseverance. All hands lost. She looked at him. Including 2 fugitive terrorists, identified as Daniel Mercer, and a Thanarian national. They killed everyone, even their own people. Easier than explanations. Now we are officially dead. Makes us harder to predict. Daniel felt sick. Captain Rourke, Dr. Hollis, all those survivors from the station, gone because they'd helped him. Do not spiral into guilt, Saraxa said sharply. Their deaths demand justice, not self-pity. Easy for you to say. Is it? Her voice cracked like a whip. You think I feel nothing? Those people died because we escaped. Because I chose revenge over discretion. Every death adds to my ledger. She gripped his shoulders with her upper arms. But guilt without action is worthless. We honor them by finishing what we started. He met her eyes, all 6 of them. How do you deal with it? The weight? By remembering why I fight, by choosing targets carefully, by surviving to fight another day. Her grip gentled. And now, by having partner to share burden. We've known each other less than a day. And yet we have saved each other's lives multiple times. In my culture, this creates strong bond, she released him. But if you prefer human courtship rituals, we have 3 days. Shall we start with dinner? Despite everything, Daniel found himself almost smiling. You mean the protein paste in the ship's supplies? I have real food. Hidden compartment. Even chocolate from Earth. She moved toward the small galley. Sit. I will cook. You cook? Warrior must be self-sufficient. Also, I enjoy it. Creating rather than destroying. She prepared something that smelled amazing, using ingredients Daniel couldn't identify. 4 arms made her incredibly efficient in the kitchen. She could stir, chop, season, and plate simultaneously. Tell me about your sister, she said as she worked. So he did. About Maria's brilliance, her determination to make the colonies safer, how she'd raised him after their parents died, her terrible jokes and fierce protectiveness. By the time he finished, his eyes were wet. She sounds like true warrior, Saraxa said, placing a steaming plate before him. She would be proud of what you do now. The food was incredible. Flavors both alien and familiar. They ate in comfortable silence for a while before Daniel asked, "What was your clan like?" Saraxa's eyes went distant. Loud, chaotic, beautiful. 7 siblings, all competing for attention. My mother was clan matriarch, keeper of our stories. My father was artist, believed violence should have purpose and beauty. She smiled sadly. They would have liked you, mother especially. She always said I needed a partner who could challenge my assumptions. I challenge your assumptions. Constantly. I assume all humans are weak. You show courage. I assume corporate types have no honor. Your Captain Rourke proved otherwise. I assume justice requires violence. You seek legal path first. The legal path hasn't worked out so well. No. But attempting it was still correct. She refilled his plate. This is why we work well together. Balance. They talked for hours, sharing stories, learning each other's perspectives. Daniel discovered Saraxa had a doctorate in xenocultural studies, spoke 12 languages, and had once spent 6 months living with a pacifist religious order to understand nonviolence. Didn't work, she admitted, but I learned valuable meditation techniques. You meditate? Daily. How else would I control impulse to kill annoying people? That's actually terrifying. Good. Healthy fear keeps you alive. She began clearing dishes. We should plan for Kepler Station. Your Dr. Hollis sent data before they killed her. The moment of levity shattered. Yes. Saraxa's movements became precise, controlled. Medical conference provides cover, but we need identities, documentation. I know someone. Maybe. Daniel accessed the ship's communication system. Gray market contact from my engineering days, if he's still alive. Gray market? Not quite illegal. Not quite legal. People who provide services corporations don't approve of. He sent a carefully coded message to an old address. The response came quickly. Danny boy heard you were dead. Marcus Webb's face filled the screen. Older and rounder than Daniel remembered, but with the same mischievous grin. The background showed what looked like a cluttered electronics shop. Reports exaggerated, Daniel said. Marcus, I need identities, documents, clean backgrounds that'll pass corporate screening. Marcus's grin widened. The kind of thing that would be very illegal if I actually did that sort of thing. Which of course I don't. Of course not. Who's your large friend? Saraxa leaned into view. Someone who values discretion. Thanarian warrior? Nice. Don't suppose you have a sister. 7. All warriors. All taller than me. Marcus's eyes went wide. I think I'm in love. What do you need? They discussed requirements. Medical conference attendees, with backgrounds that would explain their presence but not draw scrutiny. Marcus promised results within 2 days. This'll cost, though corporate-grade forgeries aren't cheap. I have credits, Saraxa said. Not asking for credits. Marcus's expression turned serious. Danny, what you're doing, taking on Drake Industries, that's war. You win. I want exclusive rights to the story. Book, video, full media package. If we survive, When you survive, you've got something corporations fear most: righteous anger and nothing left to lose. He glanced at Siraxa. Plus, a very large warrior. That helps. The connection ended. Daniel slumped in his chair. 2 more days of running. Then we walk into the enemy's stronghold with fake identities and hope they don't shoot us on sight. Could be worse, Siraxa offered. How? Could be boring. She moved toward the sleeping quarters. Rest now. Tomorrow we train. Train. If you insist on using stun baton, you must know how. Otherwise, you will accidentally paralyze yourself. She paused at the doorway. Also, we should discuss sleeping arrangements. Ship has 1 bed. Daniel felt heat rise in his face. I can take the floor. Bed is large enough for 2, unless human taboos. It's not that. It's just, we're technically engaged, but we've known each other less than a day, and you're 2 feet taller than me, and… Daniel, she interrupted his rambling, is sleep, not mating ritual. Though if you wish to discuss mating rituals… Sleep. Sleep is good. That laugh sound again. As you wish. But know that Thanarian courtship typically involves much more violence. This is practically sedate by comparison. She disappeared into the sleeping quarters, leaving Daniel to contemplate how his life had become so surreal. 48 hours ago, his biggest concern had been fixing a malfunctioning air recycler. Now, he was planning to infiltrate a corporate fortress with an alien bride he hadn't technically ordered, seeking evidence to bring down the company that killed his sister. And somehow it felt right. He followed Siraxa to the sleeping quarters, finding her already settled on one side of the surprisingly spacious bed. She'd changed into loose sleeping clothes that did nothing to diminish her imposing presence. Computer, she said. Reduce lighting 70%. Maintain standard environmental controls. The lights dimmed to a comfortable level. Daniel settled on his side of the bed, very aware of her presence. The mattress adjusted automatically to accommodate their different sizes and weights. Question, Siraxa said into the darkness. Yeah. When this is over, when we have justice for our families, what then? He hadn't thought that far ahead. I don't know. I've spent 3 years just existing, not living. Planning for the future seems presumptuous. Then we make modest plan. We survive. We win. We decide what comes next together. One of her hands found his in the darkness, engulfing it. Acceptable. Acceptable. Sleep came eventually. Despite the strangeness of sharing a bed with an 8-foot alien warrior, Daniel's dreams were filled with explosions and accusations, but also with 6 amber eyes that somehow made him feel safe. He woke to find Siraxa already up, practicing combat forms in the cargo bay. Her forearms moved in perfect synchronization, striking imaginary foes with lethal precision. She noticed him watching and beckoned him over. Today you learn to fight properly, she announced. Corporate security will not be impressed by your wild swinging. I've had combat training. She moved. One moment she was 3 meters away. The next, she had him pinned against the wall with minimal effort. Your training assumes human opponents, she said, releasing him. Kepler Station has mixed species security, different physiologies, different weaknesses. The next hours were bruising but educational. Siraxa taught him to read body language across species, to identify weak points in various anatomies, to use his smaller size as an advantage rather than a liability. Krellians have blind spot directly behind, she explained, demonstrating on a holographic opponent. Vraxians are vulnerable at joint connections. Humans, she smiled. Many weaknesses, but also unpredictable. Your species' irrationality is sometimes advantage. Thanks, I think. By the time Marcus's data package arrived, Daniel was sore but significantly more confident in his abilities. The identities were masterful. Dr. Eric Haston, trauma specialist from Mars Colony. His assistant, Sarana Vex, a medical technician specializing in multi-species physiology. The conference focuses on treating mining-related injuries, Marcus explained via encrypted message. Perfect cover for you both. Credentials will pass any scan. Just try not to actually treat anyone. They spent the final day memorizing their covers, studying Kepler Station's layout, and planning infiltration routes. The station's medical database was housed in a secure sublevel, accessible only to senior staff. We need distraction, Siraxa decided. Something to draw security away. I might have an idea. Daniel pulled up the conference schedule. There's a gala dinner the second night, all senior staff attending, including database administrators. So we strike during dinner? Better. We attend dinner. Make ourselves visible, above suspicion. Then you have a medical emergency requiring immediate database access for treatment records. What kind of emergency? Thanarian metabolic cascade syndrome. Rare. Requires specific genetic markers for treatment. The kind of thing that would reasonably require database access. Siraxa's eyes gleamed with approval. You think like intelligence operative. I approve. Just an engineer who reads too much. Same thing. Different application. She checked their approach vector. 6 hours to real space. We should prepare. They donned their disguises. Daniel in a conservative medical uniform that made him look older, more serious. Siraxa in modified technician's garb that somehow minimized her imposing presence, though nothing could make her look small. How do I look? She asked, attempting a non-threatening posture. Like an 8-foot alien trying to look harmless. Perfect. Humans expect aliens to try fitting in. Makes us seem less dangerous. The ship dropped from hyperspace on schedule. Kepler Station floating before them like a metal snowflake against the stars. It was beautiful in its way, all gleaming surfaces and elegant design. Nothing like the utilitarian bulk of Frontier X5. Kepler Station Control. This is medical transport requesting docking permission. Daniel transmitted. Dr. Haston and assistant for the Mining Health Conference. Transmit credentials. They held their breath as Marcus's forgeries underwent scrutiny. After eternally long seconds, the response came. Approved. Proceed to Docking Bay 4. Enjoy your stay at Kepler Station. They were in. As Silent Blade settled into the docking clamps, Siraxa performed final weapons checks. The stun baton went into Daniel's medical bag, while she concealed various devices about her person with practiced ease. Remember, she said, we are medical professionals. Boring, unthreatening, nothing to see. Right, boring. Daniel tried to calm his racing heart. We can do boring. The docking bay was immaculate, all polished floors and corporate logos. Security was visible but not oppressive. Just enough to remind visitors they were on corporate property. A cheerful human woman in a conference uniform greeted them. Dr. Haston, welcome to Kepler Station. I'm Amy from Guest Services. Let me escort you to registration. They followed Amy through corridors that screamed corporate wealth. Art pieces worth more than a miner's lifetime earnings. Carpeting that probably cost more per meter than Daniel's entire quarters on Frontier X5. Your first time at Kepler, Amy chirped. Yes, Daniel replied, pitching his voice to the bored tone of a doctor who'd seen too many conferences. Though one medical station tends to look like another. Oh, you'll find Kepler quite unique. We have 17 restaurants, a full recreational complex, even a zero-G swimming pool. Fascinating, Siraxa said flatly. Registration was smooth. Their credentials passed every check. Their cover stories accepted without question. They were assigned quarters on the medical staff level, with full access to conference facilities. The opening reception is tonight at 1900, Amy informed them. Casual dress, but most attendees go semi-formal. Drink tickets are included in your registration. Their quarters were luxurious by station standards. 2 bedrooms, a shared living area, even a kitchenette. Daniel immediately checked for surveillance devices, finding 3 without much effort. They're not trying to hide them, he noted. Standard corporate practice. Visible surveillance prevents more than it catches. Siraxa disabled the devices with casual efficiency. They will note the tampering, but medical professionals often value privacy. Not suspicious if we do not overdo it. They spent the remaining hours reviewing their plan, studying staff photos from the conference packet, identifying key targets. The database administrator was a human named Garrett Klein, with a reputation for strict security protocols and expensive tastes. He will not be easy to fool, Siraxa observed. Then we don't fool him. We give him a legitimate crisis he can't ignore. Daniel checked the time. Ready for a party. The reception was held in an observation lounge with floor-to-ceiling windows, showing the star field beyond. Medical professionals from across human space mingled, discussing techniques, comparing horror stories, networking with desperate enthusiasm. Daniel circulated carefully, introducing himself, making connections without being memorable. Siraxa played her role perfectly, the competent but unremarkable assistant, practically invisible despite her size. Dr. Haston. Daniel turned to find a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and an expensive dress. Dr. Sarah Kranz, according to her name tag, Chief of Mining Safety for the entire sector. Dr. Kranz, I've read your papers on pressure wave trauma. Fascinating work. Kind of you to say. She studied him with uncomfortable intensity. Mars Colony. Right, I don't recall seeing your name in the Colonial Medical Registry. Daniel's blood chilled, but he maintained his bored expression. Private practice, corporate contracts, mostly. The registry is for public physicians. Of course. She didn't look entirely convinced. And your assistant? Sarana has been invaluable. Multi-species trauma is becoming more common as integration increases. Indeed. Dr. Kranz's eyes narrowed. You remind me of someone, an engineer I once met, worked for. Sarah. A loud voice interrupted. Garrett Klein appeared, slightly drunk, definitely interested in Dr. Kranz. You promised me that dance. Later, Garrett. But Klein was persistent, drawing her away with apologies to Daniel. That was close, Daniel breathed. Too close. Siraxa materialized at his elbow. She suspects. We stick to the plan. Tomorrow night. Tomorrow might be too late. If she checks records. They were interrupted by a commotion near the entrance. Security guards entered, escorting someone Daniel recognized with a chill. Maxwell Drake, battered but walking, flanked by lawyers and corporate executives. Ladies and gentlemen, one executive announced. I apologize for the disruption. We've just received word of a terrible tragedy. The corporate vessel Perseverance was destroyed by saboteurs. We're here to honor the victims and assure you that those responsible will face justice. Drake's eyes swept the room and locked onto Daniel. A slow smile spread across his battered face. In fact, Drake said loudly, I believe we may have found them already. Security began moving through the crowd, toward Daniel and Siraxa. So much for boring, Siraxa muttered, her hands moving to concealed weapons. The trap had sprung, and they were caught in the middle of it. The observation lounge erupted into chaos. Security guards pushed through the crowd of medical professionals, their weapons drawn, but not yet aimed. Drake stood near the entrance, his damaged face twisted in satisfaction. There's nowhere to run. Mercer, he called out. Did you really think fake identities would fool us? We own this station. Daniel's mind raced. 20 security guards, over 100 civilians, limited exits. The math wasn't good. Follow my lead, Siraxa murmured. Then, louder, she announced. I am experiencing metabolic distress. My cardiac system. She collapsed dramatically, her massive form hitting the floor with a crash that shook nearby tables. All 4 arms twitched in what looked like seizures. Medical emergency. Daniel dropped beside her, slipping into his doctor persona. I need space. Her species has redundant cardiac systems. if they cascade. The nearest doctors instinctively moved to help. Even some security guards lowered their weapons. Uncertain. Daniel pressed his fingers to Saraxa's neck, pretending to check vitals, while actually receiving her whispered message. Ventilation shaft, behind the bar, 60 seconds. This woman is a wanted terrorist, Drake pushed forward. Don't be fooled. This woman is dying. Dr. Kranz appeared, her suspicious nature overridden by medical instinct. I don't care what she's done. We have an obligation. More doctors crowded around, creating a barrier between them and security. Daniel caught Saraxa's eye. She winked with one of her outer eyes. I need my medical kit, Daniel announced. It has species-specific stabilizers. I'll get it, a young resident rushed toward the quarters. No, it has to be calibrated. Daniel stood, then stumbled dramatically. The stress. I think. He collapsed toward the bar, knocking over a tray of drinks. Glass shattered, guests scattered. In the confusion, Saraxa rolled with surprising agility, her seizure carrying her behind the bar as well. Stop them, Drake screamed. Too late. Saraxa's upper arms ripped the ventilation grate free, while her lower arms boosted Daniel up. He scrambled into the shaft, pulling himself forward as fast as possible. Saraxa followed, her larger frame barely fitting. Energy beams sizzled through the air where they'd been. Someone screamed. The doctors scattered, no longer providing cover. Seal the station, Drake's voice echoed behind them. Full lockdown. They don't leave alive. The ventilation shaft was a tight maze of metal and recycled air. Daniel navigated by instinct and half-remembered schematics, taking turns at random to throw off pursuit. Behind him, Saraxa moved with surprising quiet for her size. They emerged 3 levels down in a maintenance corridor. Warning lights were already flashing. The station's automated voice announced security lockdown. All personnel to remain in place. They'll have tracked our path, Daniel said. We have minutes at most. Then we use them. Saraxa checked her weapons. The database. 2 levels down, but it'll be sealed. Everything can be unsealed. She moved toward a service elevator. You're Dr. Kranz. She helped us. Why? Medical ethics. Doctors help people. Period. Noble. Impractical. But noble. The elevator doors opened to reveal 2 security guards. Saraxa moved faster than thought. Her stun baton caught the first guard in the throat. Her lower left arm grabbed the second guard's weapon, while her lower right delivered a nerve strike. Both men crumpled. Help me. She dragged the unconscious guards into the elevator. We need their access codes. Daniel found the security credentials, while Saraxa worked on something with the guards' equipment. The elevator descended, each floor marking territory deeper into corporate control. What are you doing? Daniel asked. Creating distraction. She finished whatever modification she'd made. In 60 seconds, their weapons will overload. Small explosion, lots of smoke. Security will investigate. That's brilliant. Basic sabotage. Your human military teaches it to children. The elevator stopped. Ready. The database level was eerily quiet. Emergency lighting cast long shadows down empty corridors. No guards, no staff, nothing. Trap, Saraxa stated. Obviously, but we need that data. They moved cautiously, weapons ready. The main database center loomed ahead, its reinforced doors standing open. Definitely a trap. Wait, Daniel spotted something. Environmental controls. If I can override them. His fingers flew over the access panel, using his engineer's codes from Frontier X5. Most were rejected, but maintenance protocols were often universal. There. Ventilation controls. What are you doing? Buying us an advantage? He reversed the airflow in the database center. If they're waiting inside, they're about to get very uncomfortable. Smoke began pouring out of the open doors. Coughing echoed from within. 3 guards stumbled out, eyes streaming. Siraxa disabled them with clinical efficiency. Clever, she approved. But Drake will not be so easily. Trapped, no, I won't. Drake emerged from a side corridor, flanked by 6 guards in full combat armor. These weren't standard security. These were military-grade killers. Did you really think I'd wait in an obvious trap? Drake touched his damaged face gingerly. You cost me significant medical expenses. Mercer, the least you can do is die quietly. Counteroffer, Siraxa said. You tell us who ordered Colony Prime massacre. We kill you quickly instead of slowly. Such bravado. Tell me, warrior, do you know why your clan really died? Siraxa tensed. Mining rights. You wanted our land? Partially true. But your clan sat on something far more valuable than minerals. Drake smiled coldly. They had evidence. Records of our early colonial operations. Proof of systematic genocide against indigenous species. Your matriarch was going to release it. Liar! Am I your mother met with human journalists 3 days before the attack? She gave them partial records, held back the rest as insurance. His smile widened. We couldn't let that stand. Siraxa's control cracked. A sound emerged from her throat, primal and furious. She moved to attack, but Daniel grabbed one of her arms. That's what he wants, Daniel said urgently. He's baiting you. Listen to your pet human, Drake advised. Though it won't matter. You see, I learned from our last encounter. These men are equipped with neural disruptors, calibrated specifically for Thanarian physiology. One shot, and you'll beg for death. And me, Daniel asked. You're just collateral damage. Wrong place, wrong time. Your sister, at least, had the dignity to die for a cause. Now it was Daniel's turn to fight rage. Maria had died trying to expose their crimes. Just like Siraxa's family. All of it connected. A web of murder spanning years and star systems. Enough talk, Drake decided. Kill them! The guards raised their weapons. Daniel prepared to die. The lights went out. Complete darkness swallowed the corridor. Daniel heard Drake curse, guards stumbling, weapons powering up. Then Siraxa's voice, calm and deadly. Night vision is hardware. Thanarian eyes are biological. We adapt. Violence erupted in the dark. Energy beams lit the corridor in strobing glimpses of carnage. Siraxa moved like death itself, 4 arms dealing devastation. Daniel stayed low, using his memory of the layout to navigate. His hand found a weapon dropped by a fallen guard. He fired blind, aiming for muzzle flashes. Someone screamed. The emergency power kicked in, revealing a scene from nightmares. 4 guards were down, bodies bent at impossible angles. Siraxa stood among them, amber blood seeping from multiple wounds, but still fighting. 1 guard remained standing, neural disruptor aimed at her head. Daniel didn't think. He just fired. The guard's head snapped back, a smoking hole between his eyes. First kill, first human life taken. Daniel expected to feel something. Guilt, horror, satisfaction. Instead, just emptiness. Where's Drake? Siraxa demanded. Gone, in the chaos. Their true target had vanished. Database first, Daniel decided. We can't leave empty-handed. They entered the database center. Banks of servers hummed quietly, storing decades of corporate sins. Daniel moved to the main terminal, fingers flying over interfaces. Locked out, he reported. Need administrator access. Stand aside. Siraxa produced a small device from her armor. Military-grade decryption unit. Illegal in 12 systems. Will it work? In theory. In practice. She attached it to the terminal. Numbers cascaded across screens. 5 minutes. We don't have 5 minutes. Then delay them. Daniel moved to the door, checking the fallen guard's weapons. Full charges. Military grade. Very illegal for civilians to possess. He'd already crossed the line by killing. What was one more crime? Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Many footsteps. Daniel took position behind a server bank, weapon ready. Mercer. Drake's voice carried clearly. You can't win. Surrender now, and I'll make it quick. Continue fighting, and I'll ensure you live just long enough to watch the Thanarian die slowly. Counteroffer, Daniel called back. You walk away. We don't release the evidence of your genocide to every media outlet in human space. You're assuming you'll live to release anything. I'm assuming you're smart enough to know when you're beaten. We're not the only ones with this data. Drake, kill us. And it goes wide. Let us go. And maybe your corporate masters only throw you under the shuttle instead of burning down the whole company. Silence. Daniel could practically hear Drake calculating odds. 2 minutes, Siraxa whispered. Here's the thing about evidence, Drake finally said. It requires context. Without witnesses to verify it, data is just data. And corpses make terrible witnesses. The attack came from multiple directions. Not guards this time, but automated combat drones. Military hardware that had no business on a civilian station. They flowed through the doorway like mechanical death. Weapons tracking with inhuman precision. Daniel fired, watching his shots splash harmlessly off armored shells. The drones advanced, cornering him. He prepared for the end. Siraxa moved like lightning. She abandoned the terminal, throwing herself between Daniel and the drones. Energy beams meant for him scorched her armor instead. She grunted with each impact but kept fighting, her 4 arms a blur of motion. One drone went down, then another, but more kept coming. Too many. Even a Thanarian warrior had limits. The terminal, she gasped. Finish the download. Daniel ran for the console. The decryption was at 90%, 95. A drone targeted him. Siraxa intercepted, taking another hit that drove her to her knees. 98%. Siraxa. She looked up. Amber blood running from multiple wounds. Managed what might have been a smile. Worth it. For both our families. 99%. A drone lined up the killing shot. 100%. Daniel grabbed the data core and dove aside as energy beams scorched where he'd been standing. He rolled, came up firing, not at the drones, but at the server banks themselves. No, Drake appeared in the doorway. Those records are backed up elsewhere, Daniel finished. But you'll spend months reconstructing local copies, months where you can't hide the evidence. Explosions rippled through the servers. Automatic fire suppression kicked in, filling the air with chemical fog. In the chaos, Daniel reached Siraxa, hauling her upright with strength, born of desperation. Can you move? Do I have choice? She leaned on him, still managing to fire with her free arms. Exit. Working on it. They stumbled through smoke and flame. More drones converged, but the environmental systems were going haywire. Smoke, foam, strobing lights, all combined to create sensory chaos. Even military targeting systems struggled. A maintenance hatch appeared through the smoke. Daniel kicked it open, revealing a shaft leading down. Can you fit? Will make myself fit. Siraxa squeezed through, armor scraping metal. Daniel followed. The data core clutched against his chest. They tumbled into a recycling bay. Massive processors ground waste into component molecules. The noise was deafening, but it also masked their movement. The ship, Daniel said. Can you make it? Yes. She was lying. Amber blood left a trail behind them. But they had no choice. They navigated the station's bowels, avoiding main corridors. Twice they heard search parties pass overhead. Once, a drone nearly spotted them. But Daniel disabled it with a lucky shot to its sensor array. The docking level was in chaos. Ships were trying to leave despite lockdown. Security was overwhelmed trying to maintain order. In the confusion, 2 blood-covered fugitives didn't immediately stand out. There, Bay 4, where Silent Blade waited. So close, yet impossibly far. "I'll create a distraction," Saraxa said. "You get to the ship. We go together or not at all." Romantic. Impractical. But romantic. She checked her remaining weapons. "Then we run." They broke from cover, sprinting across the open bay. Shouts erupted behind them. Energy beams filled the air. Daniel felt heat sear past his ear. Silent Blade's ramp was lowering. Had Saraxa triggered it remotely, they were 20 meters away. 10, 5. Drake appeared at the top of the ramp, weapon aimed. Predictable to the end. He fired. Not at them, but at the ship's engines. Explosions rippled across Silent Blade's hull. Their escape route died in flame and smoke. "Now," Drake said conversationally, "let's discuss that evidence." Security forces surrounded them. Dozens of weapons trained on 2 exhausted fugitives. Daniel still clutched the data core, their only leverage. "The evidence goes public if we die," Daniel said. "Does it? I think you're bluffing. I think you're the only ones with this data." Drake descended the damaged ramp. "But let's test that theory. Guards, kill the Thanarian. We'll see if Mercer's resolve survives watching her die." "No." "Then give me the core." Daniel looked at Saraxa. She met his gaze with all 6 eyes, and he saw acceptance there. She was ready to die for this, for justice, for him. He couldn't let that happen. "Take it." Daniel held out the core. "Just let her live." "Daniel, no." Saraxa tried to rise, but her injuries betrayed her. Drake reached for the core, triumph gleaming in his eyes. The docking bay erupted. Not explosions this time, but ships. 3 vessels burst through the bay doors, weapons blazing. Security scattered as heavy fire rained down. "What?" Drake spun around. One ship Daniel recognized. A battered mining vessel with illegal modifications. Thax's ship from Frontier X5. The Krellian's voice boomed over speakers. "Frontier survivors, we stand together." The other ships were equally familiar. Survivors who'd escaped the station's destruction, come to repay a debt. Energy beams carved through security positions. One caught Drake in the shoulder, spinning him around. "Go," Thax's ship laid down covering fire. "We hold them." Daniel hauled Saraxa toward a different vessel, a small courier ship whose pilot was frantically gesturing. They stumbled aboard as energy beams scorched the hull. "Strap in." The pilot was human, young, terrified but determined. "This is going to be rough." The ship lurched upward, engines screaming. Through the viewport, Daniel saw the docking bay had become a war zone. Security forces battled Frontier survivors, while klaxons wailed. "Where are we going?" Daniel asked. "Away." The pilot threw them into a spiral as missiles streaked past. Thax said, "Get you clear." "That's what I'm doing." More ships were launching. Some security, some civilian caught in the crossfire. The space around Kepler Station became a chaotic dance of vessels and weapons fire. "They're targeting engines," the pilot reported. "Trying to disable, not destroy. They want us alive." Daniel checked Saraxa. She was unconscious but breathing. "Can we jump?" "Not yet. Need distance from the gravity well." A security cruiser moved to intercept. Larger, better armed, faster. They couldn't outrun it, couldn't outfight it. Then it exploded. Silent Blade rose from the wreckage, wounded but operational. Someone had repaired enough systems to make her flight capable. The ship opened fire with weapons that definitely weren't civilian grade. "Who's flying her?" Daniel wondered. His answer came over comms. Dr. Krantz's voice, clinical and calm. "Mr. Mercer, I found your ship's medical logs. Interesting reading. Your companion needs immediate treatment." "Dr. Howe?" 20 years ago. I was military. Some skills you don't forget." Silent Blade carved through another security vessel. "Dock with me. I'll transfer to your ship." The pilot managed the delicate maneuver while under fire. Dr. Krantz swung across the void between ships with surprising agility. She immediately moved to Saraxa, medical kit in hand. "Multiple energy burns, Internal bleeding. Neural disruptor exposure. She worked as she talked. Thanarian physiology is resilient, but she needs proper facilities. Where can we go? They'll track us anywhere in human space. Then we don't stay in human space. Kranz administered something that made Saraxa's breathing easier. I know people. Doctors who ask no questions. Why are you helping us? She looked up from her work. Because I've spent 20 years patching up workers injured by corporate negligence. Because I've filed reports about safety violations that were ignored. Because your companion was right. Sometimes, doctors need to do more than heal. Sometimes we need to prevent the injuries from happening. The courier ship reached minimum jump distance. Behind them, Kepler station receded, its lights flickering from damage. The pilot input coordinates with shaking hands. Ready to jump on your signal. Daniel looked back one last time. Somewhere on that station, Drake was probably raging about their escape, planning revenge, mobilizing resources. Let him come. They had the evidence. They had allies. They had each other. Jump, Daniel ordered. Reality twisted. Stars became lines. And they were away, carrying proof of genocide and conspiracy, racing toward uncertain sanctuary. Saraxa stirred, one eye opening. Did we win? We survived, Daniel told her. The rest comes later. Good enough. Her hand found his. Partner. Dr. Kranz continued working, muttering about damn fool heroes and inadequate field medicine. The pilot flew in tense silence, and Daniel held tight to both Saraxa's hand and the data core that would bring down an empire. They'd won the battle. The war was just beginning. 3 days later, in a medical facility on the edge of Thanarian space, Saraxa woke properly. Daniel sat beside her bed, haggard but smiling. Welcome back. She tried to sit up, winced. How long? 72 hours. Dr. Kranz had to rebuild half your internal organs. Apparently, you're too stubborn to die properly. Thanarian trait. She looked around, taking in the alien architecture. Where? Free clinic on Thesson colony. Neutral territory. We're safe for now. The data, already transmitted to 17 different media outlets, government watchdogs, and activist groups. It's everywhere. Saraxa. The whole galaxy knows what Drake Industries did. She absorbed this. And Drake himself, in custody. Turns out shooting at civilian ships in full view of station security is frowned upon. He's claiming he was stopping terrorists, but the evidence suggests otherwise. It's not enough. He's one man, the company. We'll sacrifice him to save itself. Yes, but it's a start. And we have allies now. The frontier survivors are organizing. Dr. Kranz is reaching out to medical professionals across human space. Your people are demanding justice for your clan. He squeezed her hand. We planted the seed. Now we tend the garden. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, you killed for me. The guard with the disruptor. Yes. How do you feel about that? Daniel had been asking himself the same question for 3 days. Honestly, I thought I'd feel guilty, or triumphant. Instead, I just feel necessary. He was going to kill you. I stopped him. Everything else is philosophy. You would make a good warrior. I prefer engineer. Less bleeding involved. He gestured at her extensive bandages. Usually, that sound that might be laughter. Fair point. Dr. Kranz entered, tablet in hand. Awake at last. Good. I was running out of sedatives. She checked readings with professional efficiency. You'll make a full recovery, though I recommend avoiding firefights for at least a month. Define avoid, Saraxa said. I mean it. Your redundant organs saved your life, but they're not infinite. And neural disruptor damage is cumulative. Too much exposure and even Thanarian physiology fails. Understood. Kranz turned to Daniel. There's someone here to see you both. Says it's important. Who? Wouldn't give a name. Just said you'd want to hear what she has to say. Daniel and Saraxa exchanged glances. Trap. Possibly. But we're on neutral ground. Violence here would bring down every bounty hunter in 3 systems. Send her in, Daniel decided. The woman who entered was human, elderly, but straight-backed, with eyes that had seen too much. She wore expensive clothes and moved with the confidence of someone used to power. Mr. Mercer, Warrior Saraxa. She settled into a chair uninvited. My name is Margaret Sterling. I'm on the board of directors for Drake Industries. Saraxa tensed. Daniel put a hand on her arm. And I'm here to discuss terms. Terms for what? Your surrender. Naturally. She held up a hand before they could protest. Not to us. To the legal system. Testify in court about what you've discovered. Help us clean house. You mean help you scapegoat Drake and pretend the rot doesn't go to the core, Daniel said. Partially. Yes. But also genuinely reform. Your evidence has created a crisis. Stock prices are plummeting. Contracts are being canceled. We're facing dissolution unless we act decisively. Good, Saraxa said flatly. Is it Drake Industries employs 3 million people across 40 systems? Most are innocent workers like yourselves. Should they suffer for executive crimes? Our families suffered for executive greed, Daniel countered. Yes, and I'm deeply sorry for that. She seemed sincere, but who could tell with corporate types, which is why I'm offering you a chance for real justice, not just revenge. Explain. Sterling leaned forward. Testify before the Colonial Trade Commission. Present your evidence formally. Help us identify and prosecute everyone involved in these conspiracies. In exchange, full pardons for any crimes committed during your investigation, reparations for your families, and positions on the new oversight board we're creating. You want us to work for you. Saraxa's tone could have frozen helium. I want you to help rebuild, transform Drake Industries into something ethical. Use your positions to ensure this never happens again. It was tempting. A chance to change the system from within, to honor their families by preventing future tragedies. But also, potentially a trap, a way to control and eventually silence them. We need to discuss this, Daniel said. Of course. I'll be on station for 3 days. Sterling rose. Whatever you decide, know that your actions have already saved lives. The safety violations you've exposed are being corrected across all facilities. That's worth something. She left. Daniel and Saraxa sat in silence, processing. It could be genuine, Daniel finally said. It could be manipulation. Both things can be true. Saraxa shifted carefully in bed. What does your instinct say? That we've shaken the tree. Now we see what falls. He met her eyes. What about you? I came here for revenge. Found it. But also found something else. She touched his face with one hand. Purpose beyond anger. Perhaps that's enough. So we accept. We verify. Investigate Sterling, the board, their intentions. If genuine, we engage. If false, she showed teeth. We have proven capable of handling corporate deception. Daniel smiled. Careful investigation followed by decisive action. I can work with that. Good. But first, different matter. She pulled him closer. We are still technically engaged. Need to discuss terms. Now while you're recovering from near death. Especially now. Life is short, even for Thanarian. Why waste time? She had a point. They'd faced death together, saved each other's lives, brought down a conspiracy. Traditional courtship seemed irrelevant after that. All right, Daniel agreed. Terms. Equal partnership. Obviously. Shared decision-making. Acceptable. No more suicide missions without discussion. Define suicide. Saraxa? Joke, mostly. She grew serious. I accept your terms. Do you accept mine? Which are honor for our families, justice for the oppressed. And when we have children, They know their heritage, both human and Thanarian. Children, Daniel's voice cracked slightly. Eventually, after we finish reforming corrupt corporations and avenging our families. That maybe laugh again. I am patient. Despite everything, Daniel found himself smiling. Those terms are acceptable. Good. Then by Thanarian custom, we are bonded. She paused. Human customs require ceremony, yes. Usually, big wedding, formal vows, excessive cake. Later. For now. This is enough. She pulled him down for what would have been a kiss if her mouth anatomy allowed it. Instead, she pressed her forehead to his, a gesture that seemed more intimate somehow. They stayed like that for a moment, two warriors finding peace in each other. Then Saraxa yawned, showing far too many teeth. Rest, Daniel told her. We have corporations to reform tomorrow. Or destroy, whichever proves necessary. He tucked the blanket around her massive frame. Whichever proves necessary, he agreed. As she drifted back to sleep, Daniel considered their future. It wasn't what he'd ordered. He'd wanted a quiet companion to ease his loneliness. Instead, he'd gotten a warrior partner, a crusade for justice, and a love story written in explosions and bloodshed. Strange how the universe delivered what you needed, rather than what you wanted. Through the window, alien stars wheeled in unfamiliar patterns. Somewhere among them, corporate executives were scrambling to contain the damage. Somewhere, the families of Frontier X5's victims were finding closure. Somewhere, justice was slowly grinding forward. And here, in a medical facility on neutral ground, a human engineer and a Thanarian warrior were building something new. Not just a marriage, but a partnership that would reshape worlds. Daniel settled back in his chair, keeping watch over his sleeping bride. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Sterling's offer to consider, Drake's trial to prepare for, a galaxy of corruption to confront. But tonight, they were together. They were alive. For now, that was enough. The courtroom on Kepler Station had been rebuilt in record time. Where 3 weeks ago there had been battle damage and chaos, now stood a monument to corporate efficiency. Marble floors, wood-paneled walls, the scales of justice prominently displayed, as if aesthetics could wash away the blood. Daniel adjusted his formal suit, uncomfortable in its pristine newness. Beside him, Saraxa wore modified formal attire that somehow made her look even more imposing than her battle armor had. Her injuries had healed, but she moved with the careful precision of someone who remembered pain. Still time to leave, she murmured. My ship is repaired. We could be 3 systems away before they noticed. Running now would invalidate everything we've done, Daniel replied. Besides, you promised Dr. Krantz we'd see this through. I promised to consider it. I have considered. I prefer violence. Despite the tension, Daniel almost smiled. 3 weeks of recovery had done nothing to soften Saraxa's edges. If anything, forced inactivity had sharpened them. The courtroom doors opened. Maxwell Drake entered in shackles, flanked by guards. He looked smaller somehow, his expensive suit replaced by prisoner gray, his perfect hair now unkempt. But his eyes still held that cold calculation. Mr. Mercer, Warrior Saraxa. He nodded as if they were colleagues meeting in a corridor. You're looking well. Medical technology is remarkable these days. Save it for the judge, Daniel said. The judge. Oh, my dear boy. Did you really think this would end with justice? Drake's smile was pitying. This is theater. Nothing more. Before Daniel could respond, the bailiff called for order. The gallery filled quickly. Media representatives, frontier survivors, corporate executives trying to distance themselves from scandal. Daniel spotted Thax in the back row, his blue scales freshly polished. The Krellian gave him a subtle nod. All rise for the Honorable Judge Catherine Walsh. The judge entered, severe and unsmiling. She had a reputation for fairness, which in corporate space meant she couldn't be bought cheaply. Be seated. Judge Walsh reviewed her screens. We're here for the preliminary hearing in the matter of Colonial Authority versus Maxwell Drake. Charges include mass murder, corporate sabotage, conspiracy to commit genocide, and 37 additional counts of criminality. Your Honor, Drake's lawyer stood smoothly. Defense moves for immediate dismissal. The evidence was obtained illegally by known terrorists. Motion denied. Walsh didn't even look up. Mr. Prosecutor, call your first witness. The colonial prosecutor was young but determined. The prosecution calls Daniel Mercer. Daniel took the stand, placing his hand on the truth scanner. The device hummed, calibrating to his biorhythms. Any lie would register immediately. State your name for the record. Daniel Mercer, former senior engineer, Frontier Station X5. Mr. Mercer, please describe the events of August 14th. Daniel spoke carefully, laying out the facts. Syrax's arrival, the immediate sabotage, Drake's confession. The truth scanner remained steady green. No deception detected. And you recorded this confession? My partner did. Thanarian military hardware. The prosecutor activated a display. Drake's voice filled the courtroom, cold and clear. Corporate restructuring. The mining operation has become unprofitable. An unfortunate accident will solve that problem. Gasps from the gallery. Even some corporate executives looked shocked. One thing to suspect such actions, another to hear them admitted so casually. No further questions. Drake's lawyer stood for cross-examination. Mr. Mercer, you have a personal stake in this matter, don't you? Your sister died at Colony Prime. Yes. And you blame my client for that tragedy. He admitted to ordering it. While under duress, with an alien warrior threatening him. The lawyer gestured at Syraxa. Can we trust evidence obtained through intimidation? Objection, the prosecutor called. The defendant was armed and had just attempted to destroy an entire station. Any intimidation was self-defense. Sustained. The lawyer tried another angle. Mr. Mercer, have you accepted employment with the Reformed Drake Industries Board? I've been offered a position. I haven't accepted. But you're considering it profiting from this tragedy. Daniel felt his temper rise. The truth scanner flickered yellow. I'm considering using a position to prevent future tragedies. Unlike your client, who profited from causing them. Move to strike as non-responsive. Denied. The witness may explain his motivations. It went on for hours. Every detail scrutinized. Every motivation questioned. By the time Daniel stepped down, he felt wrung out. But the truth scanner had stayed green throughout. Unimpeachable testimony. Syraxa took the stand next. The truth scanner had to be recalibrated for Thanarian physiology, causing a minor delay. State your name and occupation. Syraxa of the Mountain Clan, former intelligence officer, Thanarian Defense Corps, current status, complicated. You were contracted as a mail-order bride. No. Syraxa's 6 eyes fixed on Drake. That was fiction. I came investigating colonial crimes against my people. The prosecutor presented evidence of the Thanarian genocide. Images that made hardened reporters look away. A systematic campaign to eliminate indigenous populations, seize their lands, destroy evidence of their existence. My clan possessed records of early colonial atrocities, Syraxa testified. My mother was preparing to release them. Drake Industries killed 43 members of my bloodline to prevent this. Objection. Drake's lawyer shot up. Allegations without proof. I have proof. Syraxa produced a data chip. My mother's final message, retrieved from our clan's ruins. The hologram flickered to life. A Thanarian woman, older, but sharing Syraxa's proud bearing. She spoke in accented English. If you see this, I am dead. Drake Industries will claim it was an uprising, that we attacked first. This is false. I met with Director Drake yesterday. He offered credits for our silence. When I refused, He said, "Then you've chosen extinction. I record this knowing they will come. Remember us. Avenge us. Let the galaxy know what they truly are." Silence filled the courtroom. Even the judge looked affected. "Your witness," the prosecutor told the defense. Drake's lawyer approached carefully. "This recording could be fabricated. The truth scanner says otherwise." "Then perhaps mistaken. Your mother mentions Director Drake. That's the defendant's father, not the defendant himself. The son completed the father's work. Same company, same methods, same guilt." "That's not how law works." "That's exactly how justice works." Saraxa leaned forward. "Your client confessed. We all heard it. He destroyed Frontier X-5. He ordered deaths at Colony Prime. He continued his father's genocide. These are facts. Facts obtained through violence. Facts obtained through survival. We defended ourselves against his attempts to murder us. That the truth emerged during that defense does not diminish its truth." The cross-examination continued, but Saraxa remained unshakable. Every question met with calm precision. The truth scanner never wavered from green. Dr. Kranz testified next, presenting medical evidence of the Frontier X-5 casualties. Her professional demeanor cracked only once, when showing images of workers who died in vacuum. "These deaths were preventable," she stated. "Had proper evacuation protocols been followed, had the station's safety systems not been deliberately sabotaged, these people would be alive." Captain Rourke followed, his testimony focusing on the corporate cover-up. "I was ordered to alter logs, to support the terrorist narrative. When I refused, they tried to eliminate me along with the other witnesses. Witness after witness built the case. Frontier survivors describing the explosions. Technical experts confirming the sabotage pattern. Financial analysts showing how Drake Industries would have profited from the station's destruction. Through it all, Drake sat calmly. Too calmly. Daniel watched him, noting the slight smile, the relaxed posture. A man with an ace up his sleeve. It came during the defense's turn. "The defense calls Margaret Sterling." Daniel tensed. The board member who'd offered them positions entered, looking every inch the corporate authority. She took the stand with practiced ease. "Miss Sterling, you're on the board of Drake Industries." "I am." "And you've reviewed the evidence against my client." "Extensively." "What are your conclusions?" Sterling paused, choosing her words carefully. "The evidence clearly shows criminal actions were taken, stations were destroyed, lives were lost. These facts are indisputable. But the evidence does not prove Maxwell Drake acted alone or with board authority. In fact, our internal investigation suggests he was a rogue element, acting against company policy." The courtroom erupted. Daniel shot to his feet. "That's a lie." "Order," Judge Walsh hammered her gavel. "Mr. Mercer, you'll remain silent or be removed." Sterling continued smoothly. "We've found evidence that Mr. Drake diverted company resources for personal gain. The insurance payouts from Frontier X-5 would have gone not to the company, but to accounts he controlled." Objection. The prosecutor was on his feet. "This evidence wasn't disclosed in discovery. It's newly discovered, Your Honor. We'll provide full documentation." "You'd better," Walsh warned. The defense lawyer smiled. "So, in your professional opinion, Miss Sterling, Maxwell Drake is guilty of crimes, but Drake Industries itself is a victim of his deception." "That's correct, which is why we're cooperating fully with authorities and implementing reforms to prevent such abuses." Daniel felt sick. They were throwing Drake under the shuttle while protecting the company, the sacrificial lamb to appease public outrage. Saraxa's hand found his. "Expected," she whispered. "Now we adapt." The rest of Sterling's testimony painted a picture of corporate innocence betrayed by a bad actor. She was good, very good. By the time she finished, several gallery members looked convinced. "Your witness," the defense said smugly. The prosecutor approached Sterling carefully. "These reforms you mention, They include appointing Mr. Mercer and Warrior Saraxa to oversight positions. Among others, yes. We believe those most wronged should help prevent future wrongs. Convenient. Tell me, Miss Sterling, how long have you been on the board? 15 years. And in that time, how many safety violations were reported at Drake facilities? Sterling's composure flickered. I'd have to check records. I have them here. 8,341 reported violations. How many were acted upon? I don't have those figures. 17. 17 out of 8,000. Does that suggest a pattern of corporate negligence? Those decisions were made at lower levels. By people like Maxwell Drake? Yes. Who reported to the board? Through intermediaries. But ultimately to you. Sterling's jaw tightened. The board can't micromanage every decision. But you can set policy. And the policy was profit over safety, wasn't it? Objection argumentative. Withdrawn. The prosecutor smiled coldly. No further questions. The first day ended there. Daniel and Saraxa exited through a gauntlet of media, ignoring shouted questions. Their security escort, Thanarian warriors on loan from Saraxa's government, cleared a path. They're going to let him take the fall alone, Daniel said once they were secure in their quarters. Yes, but the media coverage helps. Public opinion matters, even to corporations. Saraxa moved to the window, watching the stars. And we have not played all our cards. What do you mean? The data core contained more than evidence of Frontier X5. Your Dr. Hollis was thorough. Financial records, communication logs, a web of conspiracy spanning decades. She turned to him. Tomorrow, the defense presents its case. They will try to isolate Drake, make him the sole villain. And then we destroy them. That night, they prepared, not for battle, but for revelation. Daniel organized data while Saraxa coordinated with their allies. By morning, they were ready. The courtroom was even more packed. Word had spread that something significant was coming. Judge Walsh looked tired, probably from reviewing evidence all night. The defense calls Maxwell Drake. A murmur through the gallery. Defendants rarely testified. Too much risk. But Drake took the stand confidently. Mr. Drake, his lawyer began, did you act alone in the destruction of Frontier X5? I acted to protect company interests. That's not what I asked. Did you act with board authorization? Drake smiled. No. The board lacked the courage for necessary actions. They preferred slow deaths through bureaucracy to clean solutions. So you admit to unauthorized actions? I admit to doing what needed to be done. If that meant acting without approval, so be it. He was good, taking responsibility while painting himself as a misguided patriot rather than a mass murderer. For an hour, he spun tales of corporate inefficiency, of trying to save the company from itself. Your witness, the defense concluded. The prosecutor stood. Mr. Drake, you mentioned necessary actions. Let's discuss those. Exhibit 74, Your Honor. The display showed financial records, not just from Frontier X5, but from dozens of operations over 20 years. These are insurance payouts from accidents at Drake facilities. 43 incidents, resulting in over 12,000 deaths, all investigated by security teams under your command, all ruled as equipment failures or terrorist actions, all resulting in profitable insurance claims. Drake's smile didn't waver. Coincidence? Really, let's examine Colony Prime. Exhibit 75. Communications logs filled the screen. Messages between Drake and his father, discussing the Maria Mercer problem and permanent solutions. Still claim you acted alone. My father is dead, cannot defend himself against slander. But others can. Exhibit 76. The screen showed board meeting minutes, not public records, but private communications, discussion of acceptable loss ratios, debates on whether certain colonies were worth maintaining. Sterling's name appeared frequently, advocating for aggressive restructuring. Sterling shot to her feet in the gallery. Those are privileged communications. Not anymore, Judge Walsh said grimly. Continue, counselor. The prosecutor systematically demolished the lone wolf narrative. Each document showed broader conspiracy. Each communication revealed board knowledge, if not explicit approval. But Drake never broke. He admitted nothing beyond what was already proven, deflected blame while accepting responsibility. A masterclass in legal navigation. No further questions. Redirect, Your Honor. The defense lawyer stood. Mr. Drake, do any of these documents show explicit board authorization for violence? No, they were too careful for that. Plausible deniability was always maintained. So you acted on interpretation of their wishes, not direct orders. Correct. No further questions. The defense rests. Judge Walsh called a recess. Daniel felt frustrated. Despite the evidence, Drake was successfully isolating himself, protecting the company that created him. Now, he asked Saraxa. Now. When court reconvened, the prosecutor stood. Your Honor, the prosecution requests to present rebuttal evidence. New information has come to light. This is highly irregular. The evidence is directly relevant and only became available this morning. Walsh frowned. I'll allow it, but it better be significant. The prosecution recalls Margaret Sterling. Sterling returned to the stand, visibly annoyed. Your Honor, I've already testified. And now you'll testify again, Walsh said coldly. Prosecutor, Miss Sterling, do you know what Project Extinction is? Sterling went very still. I'm not familiar with that term. Really, Exhibit 77. The display showed a corporate presentation. Project Extinction managed depopulation of commercially viable systems. Sterling's name was listed as project coordinator. Still unfamiliar? That was a theoretical study. Theoretical, let's see, Exhibit 78. A video played, board meeting, 5 years ago. Sterling presenting to fellow directors, including Drake's father. Indigenous populations remain the primary obstacle to expansion. Her recorded voice stated, traditional methods of negotiation are time-consuming and expensive. Project Extinction offers a final solution. Staged accidents, blamed on technical failures or territorial conflicts. The beauty is plausible deniability. No direct corporate involvement. Just unfortunate tragedies that happen to benefit our interests. Phase 1 targets have been selected. The recording continued. The Thanarian colonies offer the best return on investment. Their warrior culture makes violent response believable. We estimate complete depopulation within 18 months. The courtroom sat in stunned silence. Even Judge Walsh looked shaken. Still theoretical. Miss Sterling, the prosecutor asked. Sterling's composed mask finally cracked. You don't understand. The frontier is brutal. Sometimes, harsh decisions. Like murdering 43 members of warrior Saraxa's clan. They had evidence that could have destroyed us. Evidence of other murders you'd committed. So you committed more murders to cover up murders. The prosecutor turned to the judge. The prosecution enters into evidence the complete Project Extinction files. 57 targeted populations. 34 already eliminated. Over 1 million deaths directly attributable to this program. This is impossible, Drake's lawyer stammered. Where did this evidence come from? Saraxa stood in the gallery. From my mother's data cache. The records Drake Industries killed her to suppress. But she was cleverer than they knew. Multiple copies, hidden across our worlds. It took 3 weeks to retrieve them all. Your Honor, the prosecutor continued. This evidence shows Maxwell Drake wasn't a rogue element. He was implementing board-approved genocide. Every person in Project Extinction's leadership should be charged as co-conspirators. Judge Walsh looked like she'd aged 10 years. Bailiff, seal the courtroom. No one leaves. She turned to Sterling. You're under arrest. Guards, take her into custody. You can't do this. I have immunity agreements. Had. Past tense. Walsh activated her comm. This is Judge Walsh. I need Colonial Authority enforcement teams at Courtroom 1 immediately. We have a situation. What followed was barely controlled chaos. Sterling wasn't the only board member present. As guards moved to arrest them, some tried to flee, others activated personal shields. A few pulled weapons. Siraxa moved like lightning, her forearms disabling threats with non-lethal precision. Daniel found himself shielding a reporter from a stray energy bolt. Thanarian warriors poured in, coordinating with colonial forces. In the melee, Drake made his move. His shackles were electronic, vulnerable to the EMP device he'd somehow concealed. He rolled from the witness stand, grabbed a fallen guard's weapon. "You think this changes anything?" he screamed. "We own this system, this government, your insects fighting giants." He fired wildly. Daniel dove for cover, saw Siraxa moving to intercept. But Drake wasn't aiming at them. He was aiming at the evidence displays. "No." Daniel launched himself at Drake. They collided, wrestling for the weapon. Drake was stronger than he looked, desperate. The weapon swung between them. A shot. Daniel felt heat, pain, wetness spreading across his side. But he held on, using his weight to pin Drake down. Daniel. Siraxa was there, subduing Drake with clinical efficiency. Her 6 eyes showed fear as she checked Daniel's wound. "Medic now." "Evidence," Daniel gasped. "Save the evidence." "Already backed up, you fool. Stop trying to die heroically." Dr. Kranz appeared, medical kit in hand. "Because of course you got shot. Can't have a simple trial." She worked quickly, sealing the wound. "You'll live. Unfortunately, I'll have to hear about this heroics for weeks." The courtroom slowly came under control. 14 board members arrested. Drake secured with mechanical restraints. Order restored at gunpoint. Judge Walsh, looking haggard but determined, resumed her position. "Given the circumstances, I'm issuing an immediate ruling. Maxwell Drake, guilty on all counts. Sentence to be determined after full investigation of co-conspirators." She looked at the arrested board members. "As for Drake Industries, I'm recommending immediate dissolution. Assets to be distributed to victims' families." "Your Honor," a new voice interrupted. A young woman in an expensive suit. "I'm Rebecca Tran, representing Drake Industries shareholders. We request a delay." "Denied. Your clients profited from genocide. They can suffer the consequences." Walsh stood. "This court is adjourned, and may God have mercy on us all for letting this happen." Later, in the medical center, Daniel lay in bed while Siraxa paced. 4 arms meant she could gesture frustration in multiple directions simultaneously. "You threw yourself at an armed man," she said. "Without armor, without weapons, without sense. He was going to destroy the evidence." "The evidence was backed up in 17 locations." "I didn't know that at the time." She stopped pacing, fixed him with all 6 eyes. "You could have died, for data. After everything we've survived. You almost died for data." "You'd have done the same. I'm a trained warrior." "And I'm a trained engineer. I protected the equipment." He tried to smile. "It's what I do." She made a sound between frustration and fondness. "Impossible human." One of her hands touched his face gently. "My impossible human." Dr. Kranz entered, checking readouts. "You're healing well. Should be mobile in a day or 2. She paused. "The media is calling you both heroes. The couple who brought down a corporate empire." "We had help," Daniel said. "Yes, but you lit the fuse. That matters." She adjusted his IV. "Sterling broke. Full confession in exchange for reduced sentence. She's naming names, providing documentation. The investigation will take years, but Drake Industries is finished." "And the other corporations?" Siraxa asked. "The ones who watched and did nothing. Scrambling to distance themselves. Implementing reforms, genuine ones this time, from fear, if not conscience." Krantz smiled grimly. You've terrified them. A lone engineer and an alien warrior accomplished what governments couldn't. That sends a message. After she left, Daniel and Saraxa sat quietly. The weight of what they'd done, what they'd uncovered, settling over them. What now? Daniel asked. Now we heal. Then we decide. She studied him. The offer to join the reform board stands. Different company, but same goal. Preventing future tragedies. Is that what you want? I want justice for my clan. Today, provided that... She was quiet for a moment. But justice and purpose are different things. Perhaps preventing future extinctions honors the extinct better than just punishing their killers. So we accept. We consider... together. She smiled, showing fewer teeth than usual. As partners should. Daniel reached for her hand. I can work with that. They sat together, watching stars through the medical center window. Somewhere among those points of light, corporate executives were panicking, governments were mobilizing, and change was coming. It wasn't the ending Daniel had imagined when he drunkenly ordered a mail-order bride, but it was the ending they'd earned. Together. You know, he said, we never did have that proper wedding ceremony. True, though by Thanarian law, surviving combat together counts as marriage. She tilted her head. How many times have we saved each other now? I've lost count. Then we're very married. That maybe laugh sound. But if you want human ceremony too, maybe later, after the trials, after the reforms, after things settle. Things never settle, but later works. She squeezed his hand. Rest now. Tomorrow brings new battles. Daniel closed his eyes, feeling oddly at peace. Tomorrow would indeed bring new battles, but they'd face them as they'd faced everything else. Together. The next morning brought unexpected visitors. Thax led a delegation of frontier survivors, bearing gifts and gratitude. You gave us justice, the Krellian said simply. Blood debt is paid. There's no debt between friends, Daniel told him. Which is why we come with offer. Thax produced a data pad. New station is being built. Cooperative ownership. All species equal. We need experienced engineers. And security, another survivor added, looking at Saraxa. Corporate raiders are testing our borders. Daniel looked at Saraxa. A chance to build something new, something better, away from corporate space and its corruptions. We'll consider it, Saraxa said diplomatically, after obligations here are met. The delegation left contact information and departed. More visitors followed, job offers, interview requests, even a publisher wanting their story. We're apparently famous, Daniel observed. Temporarily, until the next scandal breaks. Saraxa sorted through messages on a pad. Your friend Marcus sends congratulations. Also, bill for services. Of course he does. And this, she handed him a personal message. Daniel read it twice. It's from Maria's daughter, my niece. I didn't know she survived. What does she say? That she's proud. That her mother would be proud. That... His voice broke. That she wants to meet us. When we're ready. Saraxa pulled him close with two arms, while the other two continued sorting messages. Family is important. We will make time. She's on Earth. That's a long journey. Then we make long journey. After trials, after reforms, after new station visit. We make tour of it. Meet your family. Visit my remaining clan. See galaxy without running from corporate assassins. That sounds normal, peaceful even. We can try normal, see if it fits. She paused. Probably won't, but worth trying. Dr. Krantz arrived for morning rounds. Good news. You're cleared for release. Bad news. There's a crowd of reporters outside. Very persistent. We could go out the back, Daniel suggested. Or, Saraxa countered, we go out the front. Show them we're not afraid. Control the narrative. When did you become a media strategist? Intelligence training included propaganda courses. Know your enemy. Control your message. Shape the battlefield. She helped him stand. Can you walk? I'm shot, not crippled. Good. Then walk proud. We won today. Let them see winners, not victims. They dressed carefully. Daniel in a simple suit that didn't hide the medical patches. Saraxa in modified formal wear that emphasized both her warrior nature and her dignity. Together, they faced the media gauntlet. Questions flew from all directions. How did it feel to bring down a corporation? What were their plans? Were they really married? Would they write a book? Star in a documentary? Saraxa raised one hand for silence. Surprisingly, it worked. We are not heroes, she said clearly. We are survivors who refuse to be silenced. Many died to expose these crimes. Honor them, not us. But surely you must feel vindicated, a reporter pressed. We feel tired, Daniel answered honestly. Grateful for justice. Sorry it was necessary. Ready to move forward. Together, another reporter called. The Human-Thanarian Alliance. Daniel and Saraxa exchanged glances. Together, they confirmed in unison. More questions, but their security escort cleared a path. Soon they were in a transport, leaving the courthouse behind. That wasn't so bad, Daniel said. Wait until they edit it. We'll either be saints or monsters, depending on their agenda. Saraxa watched the city pass below. But it doesn't matter. We know our truth. They returned to their quarters to find it full of flowers, gifts from grateful survivors, supportive messages from across the galaxy, evidence that their actions had resonated beyond corporate boardrooms. What's that? Daniel noticed a plain box. No return address. Saraxa scanned it carefully. No explosives, no toxins, just paper. Inside was a single photograph. A Thanarian woman and a human girl standing together, smiling. On the back, written in careful script, your mother and sister. They were friends. They would be proud. A friend who remembers. Daniel stared at the image. Maria, younger, laughing at something the Thanarian woman had said. Two crusaders who'd paid the ultimate price for their principles. They knew each other, he whispered. Perhaps that's why fate brought us together, Saraxa said softly. To finish what they started. Or to start something new. Both. Always both with you. She set the photograph carefully on a shelf. I would have liked to meet her. She would have liked you. Probably would have tried to adopt you. Daniel smiled through tears. She always said I needed someone to keep me from playing things too safe. Then she was wise. Saraxa pulled him close. Come. We have messages to answer, plans to make, future to build. In a minute. Daniel held the embrace, drawing strength from her presence. Just in a minute. They stood together in their small quarters, surrounded by evidence of change they'd wrought. Outside, the galaxy shifted, corporations trembled, and justice ground slowly forward. But inside, for just a moment, there was only them. A human engineer and a Thanarian warrior, bound by loss, joined by purpose, building something that transcended species or culture. It wasn't what either had ordered, but it was exactly what they'd needed. 6 months after the trial. Daniel stood in the observation deck of New Horizon Station, watching construction crews assemble the latest habitation ring. The cooperative station was growing faster than anyone had anticipated, funded by the dissolution of Drake Industries and donations from across the galaxy. What had started as a dream of frontier survivors was becoming a beacon of interspecies cooperation. You're brooding again, Saraxa observed, entering with a tray of coffee and something that might have been tea but smelled like engine coolant. Thinking, Daniel corrected, accepting the coffee gratefully. There's a difference. In humans, barely. She settled beside him, all 4 arms draped casually over the railing. The new residents arrive tomorrow. Nervous. Should I be? We've done this before. Not with 40 families, including 12 different species. The integration protocols alone will work because we've designed them to work. He smiled at her concern. When did you become the worrier in this relationship? When you decided playing with fusion reactors was a reasonable hobby. She sipped her possibly tea. The Andorian delegation has concerns about the gravity generators. Everyone has concerns about something. That's what the council meetings are for. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the construction. 6 months of building, of turning the compensation money into something meaningful. The station wasn't just a home for displaced frontier workers. It was a statement. A place where corporate power meant nothing, where all species had equal voice. Message came while you were in engineering, Siraxa said eventually. From the investigator on Earth. Daniel's hand tightened on his coffee cup. And she wants to meet the investigator, Rebecca Tran. The same Rebecca Tran who represented Drake Industries at the trial. The same. Apparently, she switched sides after seeing the evidence. Has been helping track down hidden assets. Siraxa studied him with 2 of her eyes, while the others maintained watch on the construction. She says it's important. About the mail-order bride contract. What about it? That was just Drake's cover story. That's what she wants to discuss. In person. She's traveling here on the next transport. Daniel frowned. After 6 months of relative peace, the last thing he wanted was more corporate intrigue. But something in Siraxa's tone suggested this was more than routine. You already told her yes, didn't you? I told her we'd listen. Difference. She turned to face him fully. Daniel, we never investigated how I was selected for that contract. We assumed Drake manipulated the system. But what if there's more? Does it matter we're here now? We won? Truth always matters. You taught me that. He wanted to argue, but she was right. They'd been so focused on the immediate conspiracy, on bringing down Drake Industries, that they'd never questioned the deeper mechanics of how their paths had crossed. Fine, we'll meet with her, but if this is some corporate trick, then we handle it as we always do. She showed teeth. Together. The next day brought controlled chaos as the new residents arrived. Families from destroyed frontier stations, refugees from corporate exploitation, idealists seeking to build something better. Daniel found himself troubleshooting everything from incompatible atmospheric preferences to dietary restrictions that seemed designed to create maximum difficulty. The vegan synthesizers can't produce Krellian protein paste, a harried logistics officer reported. And the Krellian units produce something the vegans classify as toxic waste. Run them on alternating schedules, Daniel suggested. Or better yet, see if Dr. Hollis can create a hybrid system. She's busy setting up the medical bay. Then I'll talk to her later. For now, separate units, clear labeling, and hope no one accidentally poisons themselves. He was updating compatibility protocols when Siraxa found him. She's here. Rebecca Tran looked different from the trial. The expensive suit was gone, replaced by practical travel clothes. The corporate arrogance had faded, leaving someone who seemed younger and more uncertain. Mr. Mercer, Warrior Siraxa, thank you for seeing me. They met in a secure conference room, one of the few places on the station guaranteed to be surveillance-free. Daniel had insisted on that feature, remembering too well how corporate monitoring had been used against workers. You said this was about the marriage contract, Daniel began without preamble. Yes, but it's more complicated than that. Tran activated a secure datapad. After the trial, I gained access to Sterling's private files. She was paranoid, kept records of everything, including this. The display showed a complex diagram, names, dates, connections spanning years. Project Cupid, Tran explained. A subdivision of Project Extinction. The theory was simple. Identify potential threats to corporate interests. Neutralize them through arranged marriages. That's insane, Daniel said. Is it? Think about it. A lonely frontier worker develops suspicious about safety violations. Before he can investigate, he's matched with someone who distracts him, redirects his focus. Maybe she's corporate security. Maybe she's just someone desperate enough to play along. Either way, the threat is neutralized without violence. Saraxa leaned forward. But I'm not a corporate agent. No, you're something else. Tran pulled up another file. The project had a secondary protocol for threats too significant to simply distract. They'd arrange matches designed to destroy both parties. A human engineer whose sister was investigating corporate crimes. A Thanarian warrior whose clan possessed damaging evidence. Bring them together, create a crisis, eliminate both in the chaos. Daniel felt cold. You're saying our entire meeting was orchestrated? Look at the timeline. Tran highlighted dates. Saraxa's profile was added to the marriage database 2 days after you made your drunk inquiry. Her transportation was arranged by a subsidiary of Drake Industries. The ship that brought her was scheduled to arrive the same day as the planned station destruction. But I survived the destruction. We both did. Because you weren't supposed to work together. The psychological profiles suggested you'd blame each other. The paranoid engineer would see the alien as a threat. The vengeful warrior would see the human as a corporate collaborator. Instead, we trusted each other. Saraxa finished. Their manipulation created the partnership that destroyed them. Poetic justice, Tran agreed. But there's more. The person who designed Project Cupid, who selected you both as targets. She's still out there. She displayed a final image. A woman Daniel didn't recognize. Middle-aged with sharp features and cold eyes. Director Catherine Walsh. That's impossible, Daniel protested. Judge Walsh presided over Drake's trial. She dissolved the company. Different person, same surname. Not a coincidence. Tran's expression was grim. Catherine Walsh went underground after Sterling's arrest. But she's been busy. 3 frontier stations have reported suspicious marriage arrivals in the last month, all followed by accidents. She's continuing the project, Saraxa growled. With improvements. Learning from her failure with you two? Tran deactivated the pad. I came here because you're the only ones who've beaten her system. If anyone can stop her. Why should we trust you? Daniel interrupted. 6 months ago, you were defending these people. 6 months ago. I believed in the system. That corporations could be reformed from within. That the law could deliver justice. She met his gaze steadily. You proved me wrong. The system is built on corpses. The only justice comes from tearing it down. Pretty words, Saraxa said, but words are easy. Then judge me by actions. Tran produced a data core. Everything I've gathered on Walsh and the continuing projects, financial records, communication intercepts, operational patterns, I'm giving it to you freely. Daniel accepted the core cautiously. What do you want in return? To help. To use my legal expertise for something meaningful. She paused. And maybe to atone. I helped defend monsters because I was too comfortable to see they were monsters. That ends now. Saraxa and Daniel exchanged glances. 6 months of building their new life. And now the past came calling again. But could they ignore it? Could they let Walsh continue destroying lives? We'll review the data, Daniel decided. No promises. That's all I ask. After Tran left, they sat in silence. The core rested between them, small and innocuous, containing horrors they'd hoped to leave behind. We could ignore it, Daniel said eventually. Pass it to authorities. Let someone else handle it. Could we, knowing what we know? We're not soldiers, Saraxa. Well, I'm not. We're builders now. This station needs us. The station needs us alive. If Walsh is targeting perceived threats, how long before she decides we're worth eliminating? It was a fair point. They'd become symbols, their story spreading across the galaxy. If Walsh was trying to rebuild the corporate exploitation machine, They represented everything she'd want to destroy. So we investigate. Daniel sighed. Carefully, without abandoning our responsibilities here. Agreed, but first, something else. Saraxa stood, moving to the wall display. Computer, access personal files. Authorization Saraxa 7 Mountain. What are you doing? Something I should have done months ago. The display filled with documents, immigration forms, genetic compatibility tests, psychological profiles. My complete marriage broker file. The real one. Not the forgery Drake created. Daniel stood, reading over her shoulder. Most of it was standard, but one section stood out. Reason for seeking match, he read aloud. To find someone who understands loss, but hasn't let it destroy their compassion. To build a future with someone who values justice over comfort. I filled that out before I knew about you, Saraxa said quietly. Before Drake's manipulation, the matching algorithm paired us because we're genuinely compatible. Not because of corporate schemes. You mean? I mean they used a real connection for false purposes. But the connection itself, she turned to face him. That was always true. Daniel felt something ease in his chest. The fear that everything between them had been manufactured. That their bond was just another corporate lie. So, when you arrived on the station, I was genuinely interested in meeting you. The crisis interrupted, but the intention was real. She touched his face with one hand. Does this change anything? Yes. No. Maybe. He caught her hand. It means we chose each other twice. Once through a dating service, once through fire and blood. Romantic for an engineer. I have my moments. They were interrupted by an emergency alert. Construction accident in Section C. A gravity generator malfunction had left 3 workers floating in dangerous proximity to exposed power conduits. Discussion later, Saraxa said. Rescue now. They rushed to the accident site. Daniel immediately saw the problem. The generator had reversed polarity, creating a localized anti-grav field. The workers couldn't reach anything solid to push off from, and the spreading field was bringing them closer to the lethal conduits. Magnetic grapples, Saraxa suggested, would interfere with the field, make it worse. Daniel studied the configuration. But if we can invert the secondary stabilizer... He dove into the control panel, hands flying over circuits. Saraxa coordinated the rescue team, using her 4 arms to simultaneously direct positions, manage safety equipment, and keep panicking onlookers back. 10 seconds, Daniel announced. Get ready to catch them. The field collapsed. 3 workers dropped. Saraxa caught 2 while a Krellian worker snagged the 3rd. Everyone safe. Crisis averted. Nice work, Dr. Hollis said, checking the workers for injuries. Though I do wish people would stop trying to die on my station. Your station? Daniel asked. I'm Chief Medical Officer. That makes every injury my problem. Ergo my station. She finished her scans. Minor bruising only. You're lucky. As the workers were led away, Daniel noticed something. The malfunction hadn't been random. Someone had deliberately reversed the polarity settings. Sabotage, Saraxa followed his gaze. Or incompetence. But given what Tran just told us, he accessed the work logs. The system was serviced yesterday by a new technician, Maria Valdez. They found Valdez in her quarters, packing frantically. She saw them and bolted for the door. Saraxa was faster, blocking the exit with casual ease. Going somewhere? Saraxa asked pleasantly. I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt, Valdez blurted. It was supposed to be a minor malfunction, just enough to discredit the station's safety record. Daniel felt anger building. After everything they'd built, someone was trying to tear it down from within. Who paid you? I don't know. Credits appeared in my account with instructions. My daughter needs medical treatment, specialized care. I couldn't afford. So you endangered others to save your child. Saraxa's voice was ice. I was desperate. Desperate enough to kill, Valdez broke down crying. Daniel felt his anger mixing with pity. How many times had corporations exploited desperation, used people's love against them? Your daughter, he said more gently. What's wrong with her? Neural degradation syndrome. The treatment exists, but it's expensive. More than I'll make in a lifetime. Daniel looked at Saraxa. She nodded slightly. Dr. Hollis specializes in exotic conditions, he said. She'll examine your daughter. If treatment is possible, the station will cover it. Why would you do that? I tried to sabotage. Because that's what separates us from them. Saraxa interrupted. We help even those who harm us. But, her tone hardened, you will tell us everything. Every contact, every instruction, every detail. Valdez nodded frantically. Yes, anything. Thank you. Thank you. They spent hours debriefing her. The pattern that emerged was familiar. Anonymous contacts, untraceable payments, instructions designed to create maximum fear with minimum actual damage. Classic corporate terrorism. It's starting again, Daniel said later, reviewing the information. Different names, same methods. Then we stop it again, as many times as necessary. Saraxa studied the data. But this feels different, sloppier, desperate. Because we hurt them, badly, they're scrambling to rebuild. He highlighted connections. Look at this. All the incidents target stations with mixed species populations. They're trying to reignite xenophobia. Divide and conquer. Classic strategy, she growled. We need to warn the other stations. Already composing the message. But Saraxa, this is bigger than we can handle alone. We need allies. Then we recruit them. Starting with Tran. She brought us this information. Let her help act on it. They called Tran back. She arrived quickly, eager despite the late hour. You were right, Daniel told her. Walsh is active. We have proof of sabotage attempts on 3 stations. 4, Tran corrected. I intercepted a communication an hour ago. Horizon's Edge reported a marriage arrival followed by atmospheric system failure. Casualties. None. They learned from your example, had emergency protocols in place. She paused. But the next station might not be so lucky. What do you propose? Saraxa asked. We hunt her, track the money, follow the communications, find where she's hiding. Tran activated her pad. I have contacts in financial investigation, people who've been waiting for a chance to strike back at corporate corruption. And then we finish what you started. Complete dismantling of the corporate exploitation system. Her eyes hardened. Legal methods where possible. Other methods where necessary. Daniel recognized the look. The same determination he'd seen in his own mirror after Maria's death. The transformation of grief into purpose. You're talking about a war, he said. I'm talking about justice. Real justice. Not corporate theater. Tran leaned forward. They killed thousands, destroyed entire cultures, and they're trying to do it again. How is stopping them not a war worth fighting? Because wars have casualties, Saraxa said softly. I've seen too many idealists become the monsters they fought. The line between justice and vengeance is thinner than you think. Then help me walk that line. You've done it successfully. Daniel wanted to refuse. They'd built something good here, something clean. But the sabotage attempt proved they couldn't just hide and hope. The corruption would find them eventually. We do this smart, he decided. No heroics, no revenge fantasies. We build a network, gather evidence, present it to authorities who can act. And if they won't act, Tran pressed, then we make them. Saraxa smiled, showing teeth. Corporate executives aren't the only ones who can apply pressure. They spent the night planning. By morning, the framework of a new alliance was forming. Station leaders who'd survived corporate exploitation, investigators tired of seeing crimes go unpunished, journalists hungry for the next big story. all connected by the shared experience of loss and the determination to prevent more. We need a name, Tran suggested. Something people can rally behind. No names, Daniel said firmly. No symbols. No hierarchy. The moment we become an organization, we become a target. We stay fluid, connected but independent. Like the Underground Railroad of ancient Earth, Saraxa mused. No leaders, just people helping people. Exactly. A soft chime interrupted them. Dawn was breaking over the station's viewing panels. Artificial but still beautiful. Daniel realized they'd talked through the night. I should go, Tran said. Lots of contacts to make. Be careful, Saraxa warned. Walsh has proven willing to kill. Don't underestimate her. I won't, but I'm done being afraid. She paused at the door. Thank you for trusting me, for giving me a chance to make things right. After she left, Daniel and Saraxa sat in exhausted silence. We're really doing this again, Daniel said. Apparently, though this time we have a station to run simultaneously. She stretched all four arms. Think we can balance hunting corporate criminals with overseeing construction? We've balanced worse. He yawned. Remember that time we had to plan a revolution while you were recovering from neural disruptor exposure? That was 6 months ago. Feels like a lifetime. He stood, pulling her up. Come on, we have a council meeting in 3 hours. Should probably sleep. They made their way through the station's corridors. Already, people were stirring. The night shift ending, day shift beginning. The rhythm of life continuing despite hidden threats. Their quarters were modest but comfortable. They'd designed them together, blending human and Thanarian aesthetics. It was home in a way nowhere else had been. Daniel, Saraxa said as they prepared for bed. What Tran revealed about Project Cupid, does it bother you? That we were manipulated into meeting a little. He considered. But, like you said, the connection was real. They used truth for evil purposes. But that doesn't make the truth less true. Philosophical, for an engineer. You're rubbing off on me. She curled around him, all four arms creating a protective cocoon. Good. Someone needs to teach you proper paranoia. I thought that was love. Same thing, different word. They fell asleep like that, wrapped in each other's warmth while the station hummed around them. In a few hours, they'd wake to face new challenges. Corporate sabotage to prevent, alliances to build, justice to pursue. But for now, they had this. Peace in the midst of storm. Love forged in chaos. It wasn't what either had ordered when their paths first crossed, but it was what they'd built together. The secure communication unit activated 2 hours later. Emergency priority. Encryption protocols Daniel didn't recognize. He stumbled from bed, trying not to wake Saraxa. Too late. She was already moving, warrior instincts triggered by the alert. The display showed a face Daniel had hoped never to see again. Maxwell Drake, broadcasting from prison. Hello, Mr. Mercer, Warrior Saraxa. I hope I'm not interrupting anything intimate. How did you get this frequency? Daniel demanded. Oh, I have friends everywhere, even in your precious cooperative station. Drake smiled. But I'm not calling to threaten. I'm calling to warn. We don't need warnings from mass murderers, Saraxa growled. Don't you? Tell me. Have you wondered why Director Walsh is being so sloppy? Why her sabotage attempts are so easily traced? He leaned forward. Because she wants you to chase her. You're not hunting, my dear enemies. You're being hunted. The transmission cut out, leaving them staring at a blank screen. Trap, Daniel asked. Obviously. But trap for what purpose? Saraxa was already moving, activating security protocols. If Walsh wanted us dead, she could have acted directly. Unless she needs us alive, like bait. They looked at each other, same thought occurring simultaneously. Their story had inspired others. If Walsh could destroy them publicly, frame them for crimes, the entire reform movement would crumble. We need to warn Tran, Daniel said. And increase security, and verify everyone on the station. Saraxa's 4 hands worked different panels simultaneously. If Drake has contacts here... The lights flickered. Emergency power kicked in a second later. That's not a malfunction, Daniel stated. No, it's an announcement. Saraxa retrieved weapons from hidden compartments. They're here. Alarms began wailing. Multiple hull breaches reported. Armed intruders in sections B through F. The trap had already sprung. So much for our peaceful morning, Daniel muttered, checking his weapon. Peace is overrated anyway. Saraxa moved to the door. Ready. No, but let's go save our station. Again. They emerged into chaos. Security teams were responding, but the intruders were professional, military grade. This wasn't corporate security. This was something else. Private military contractors. Saraxa identified, watching their movements. Expensive ones. Walsh has deep pockets. Deeper than they should be. Someone's funding her. They moved through the station, coordinating defense. The intruders weren't trying to destroy the station. They were hurting people, pushing them toward the central plaza. They want witnesses, Daniel realized. This is being recorded. Then let's give them a show they didn't script. They reached the plaza, to find most of the station's population corralled by armed mercenaries. In the center stood a woman Daniel recognized from Trans-Files. Director Catherine Walsh, looking exactly like someone who ordered genocides over breakfast. Mr. Mercer, Warrior Saraxa, so good of you to join us. Her voice carried clearly through the plaza. I believe it's time we discuss the future. The future where you're in prison, Daniel suggested. The future where order is restored, where humans and aliens know their proper places, where progress isn't hindered by bleeding-heart idealists. She gestured to the crowd. These people trusted you, followed you, and where has it led them? To freedom from corporate exploitation, Saraxa answered. To chaos, to poverty, to a ramshackle station built on dreams instead of profits. Walsh shook her head. I'm offering them better. Return to the corporate fold. Accept oversight. Prosperity instead of principles. Slavery instead of freedom, someone shouted from the crowd. Others took up the cry. Walsh's expression hardened. Silence them. The mercenaries moved to comply. But they'd made a critical error. They'd assumed a station of refugees would be easy prey. They hadn't counted on these being survivors. The crowd erupted, not in panic, but in coordinated resistance. Months of Daniel's emergency drills, Saraxa's combat training, Dr. Hollis's medical preparations. Every person knew their role. For the station, Thak's voice boomed as he led a charge of Krellian workers. The plaza became a battlefield. But not the massacre Walsh had planned. The mercenaries found themselves outnumbered, outmaneuvered by people defending their home. Daniel and Saraxa moved through the chaos like a practice team. He handled technical threats, disabling weapons and equipment. She handled physical ones, her forearms devastating in close combat. They reached Walsh as she was trying to escape. Leaving so soon? Saraxa inquired, blocking her path. You can't stop what's coming, Walsh snarled. The old order will be restored. Your little experiment will be a footnote. Maybe, Daniel agreed, but you won't be around to see it. Walsh pulled a weapon, something exotic and definitely illegal. Saraxa was already moving, but Daniel was closer. He tackled Walsh, the weapon discharging into the ceiling. They rolled, fighting for control. Walsh was stronger than she looked, enhanced somehow. But Daniel had learned from the best. He used her momentum against her, a move Saraxa had drilled into him countless times. Walsh hit the ground hard, weapon flying from her grip, before she could recover. Saraxa was there, restraints securing all 4 limbs. It's over, Daniel panted. Is it? Walsh laughed, blood running from her lip. You think I'm the leader, I'm middle management, just like Drake. The real power hasn't even noticed you yet. Then we'll make them notice, Siraxa promised. Security forces were mopping up the remaining mercenaries. The station had held, its people victorious. But Daniel felt no triumph. Just tired recognition that this was indeed war, whether they'd wanted it or not. "She's right about one thing," he told Siraxa quietly. "This is just the beginning." "I know. But look." She gestured to the plaza. Humans and aliens working together, tending wounded, securing prisoners. "We're not alone anymore." It was true. What had started as two people seeking justice had become a movement. Not perfect, not invincible, but real and growing. Mr. Mercer, Tran appeared, disheveled but unhurt. "I've been analyzing their communications." Walsh was transmitting throughout the attack. "To whom?" "Everyone. Major news outlets, corporate boards, government agencies." She showed them her pad. But the transmission didn't show what she expected. It showed a diverse community successfully defending itself against corporate aggression. "Free advertising for our cause," Siraxa noted with satisfaction. "More than that, I'm getting contact requests from dozens of stations. They want to join our network, learn our methods." Tran smiled. "We've just became the model for anti-corporate resistance." Daniel looked at Siraxa. "So much for our quiet life building a station. Was it ever going to be quiet with us?" She pulled him close with two arms, while the other two gestured at the controlled chaos around them. "Besides, this is better. Building something that matters. Even if it paints a target on our backs?" "Especially then. Easy victories aren't worth winning." She looked down at him with all six eyes. "But we should discuss terms." "Terms for what?" "Our new life as revolutionary leaders. I have requirements." "Despite everything," Daniel laughed, "such as regular meals together. No heroic sacrifices without consultation. And when this war is won, we take a real honeymoon. Somewhere with no corporations, no conspiracies, no assassination attempts. Does such a place exist?" "We'll build one if necessary." She kissed him. Or her version of it. "Deal." "Deal." Around them, the station continued its controlled chaos. Prisoners to process, damages to repair, messages to send to their new allies. The war Walsh had promised was indeed coming. But they'd face it, as they'd faced everything else. Together. Not as the mail-order bride and lonely engineer who'd been thrust together by corporate manipulation, but as partners who'd chosen each other again and again through every crisis. It wasn't the ending either had expected when their story began, but it was the beginning they'd earned. And sometimes, beginnings were more important than endings. "Come on," Daniel said, surveying the work ahead. "Let's go build a revolution." "Already building one," Siraxa corrected. "Now we just need to finish it." They walked back into the plaza, ready for whatever came next. Behind them, the stars continued their eternal dance, indifferent to human struggles. But on this small station, in this moment, ordinary people had proven that together. They were extraordinary. The real plot twist wasn't that their meeting had been orchestrated by enemies. It was that love could bloom in manipulation's shadow, that trust could grow from betrayal's seed, that two people brought together by the worst of intentions could create the best of outcomes. The mail-order bride and the lonely engineer were gone. In their place stood something stronger, stranger, and infinitely more dangerous to those who profited from suffering. They were partners, they were in love, and they were just getting started.